Good evening, everyone. This is Stone Gasman live from New York City. And tonight we're going to be doing a very special double feature for two films from 1972, which are about roller derby. The first is Kansas City Bomber, starring Raquel Welch and directed by Jerrold Freeman. And the second one, which we will play pretty much immediately right after Kansas City Bomber tonight, is directed by Vernon Zimmerman and is also a Roger Corman production. But anyway, we're not going to worry about that until around 10:45. Until around 10:45, that's when we'll start the Unholy Rollers. But I have never seen Kansas City Bomber before. I am well aware of who Raquel Welch is. I haven't seen too many of her films, and I'll be perfectly honest. The only reason why I added to my 50th anniversary commentary list is largely because of the fact I'm a huge fan of the movie Whip It from 2009, directed by Drew Barrymore. But that is pretty much a completely different story. And, of course, that is also showcases modern day roller derby as opposed to what it was like back in 1972 when the sport was originally like at its zenith. And then it got crushed and disappeared for like 10, 15 years or something like that. I mean, it took several revivals for roller derby to actually get back into the spotlight. And it's even gone so far as to try to be done at the Olympic Games. I mean, they really tried to get it for the 2020 Olympics, and it didn't quite get there. It was considered, but it didn't quite get there. So, but anyway, we'll talk more about the history of roller derby and also about these movies in general as we watch them. But for right now, I am paused at the MGM logo for the 1972 film Kansas City Bomber. And before I press play, just want to do a shout out to those in the chat. John, wonderful to see you, my friend. According to my friend John from Twitter, this is his favorite movie of all time. Please clarify that in the chat if that's true, because I like it. It's a very unique choice. And like I said, I'll be excited to get your wisdom as we play through the movie. Also, Mr. Cliff Booth, I've never seen these before. Looks like a fun ones. You know, they are both fun movies. The second movie is a bit more sleazy when we get to it. I mean, you know, there's a lot more crap in that second movie, but this first movie is definitely a lot of fun. So I hope that you all will enjoy it. So let's go ahead and press play here on the MGM logo for Kansas City Bomber. The count of 3, 2, 1, and play. And got rid of the volume right there. Yeah. It has something. Oh yeah, a cool throwback rock band. Yeah, we'll get to that. That's Unholy Rollers. We'll get to that. Now I gotta confess, I love this opening, which it's mostly in the dark, and we see somebody in roller skates and white boots going up to these steps. The lights come on, and we realize immediately that we're in some kind of a sports arena. I love that title. God, I love that retro title design. It's so groovy. So groovy. Also starring Kevin McCarthy. Yep. Helena Kalininatos, who we'll talk about also. She was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress for this film. Now, I gotta say, first off, now I've already said before the commentary started, I had never seen Kansas City Bomber before. And like I said, I was on the fence on whether to include this because, like, I don't know anything about roller derby. You know, I mean, I don't watch a lot of sports or even sports films. But I always knew about this film's existence. And I think it is unique in the fact that it's one of the few roller derby movies out there. There's not a lot of these movies. Aside from this and Unholy Rollers and Whip It, there's not much else. Now, granted, in the late 70s, we had a couple of roller disco movies, like Roller Boogie with Linda Blair, like stuff like that. Skate Town USA with Patrick Swayze's direct acting debut. And I love what John, my buddy in the chat, he's also on Twitter. I love his review on IMDb. He said, the only fun stuff happens at the snack bar. But yeah, here is the gorgeous Raquel Welch. I'm not, just because. Am I a fan of Raquel Welch? I can't say yes or no because, look, I know why she's famous, and produced by Marty Elf, who later did Officer Jump, and I wanted to give him a shout out, and directed by Jerrold Freeman. We don't know much more about the director than what I'll go away later on, Terry. But let's go to Raquel Welch for a minute because, look, I've seen 1 million BC. Okay, I get. Okay, I absolutely get why she became a star. Now, in all honesty, there was only one movie before Kansas City Bomber starring Raquel Welch that I can definitively say I watched and liked, and that was a movie called Fathom, where she plays a skydiver. That was released by 20th Century Fox in 1966, and it was from the same director as the movie version of Batman, based on the 60s television series. I had so much fun watching that movie, and look, was it great seeing Raquel Welch in a green bikini? Absolutely. But I liked her in that movie, and I liked the movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. But outside of that, I haven't seen Raquel Welch in many other in many other things. And so going into this, I realized a few things. Okay, the actress herself considers the one of the very, very few films that she is very happy with and very satisfied with as an actress. And I've read different things in places that said that this movie gave her more of an opportunity to flex her acting muscles and showcase what she can really do in front of the camera. Because in this movie, she's not only emoting, but she's also being very physical. Jumping into the roller rinks with all these real life roller rink participants. That I'll get to the organizations in a minute, but no, I mean all these roller derby players were a lot of them were real. I mean, from real teams that were there at the time. I mean, as a matter of fact. I mean, like I said, 1972 was the roller derby year. I mean, it was such a popular sport that, I mean, eventually, the record attendance that year was like 50,000, I think, in some venue. And then in 1973, it completely went away for many, many years. It's really odd. I mean, this movie is a unique artifact, not just in terms of the sports genre, but also, films in general. I mean, it's very unique. It's very original for what it is. I mean, yes, there are cliches here. I was expecting those cliches, and I got them. But what I was very impressed about was Raquel Welch's performance. It's one of the genuine surprises of what would probably be a forgettable a time waster that just happens to be set in the world of roller derby. But it is very true that the screenwriter behind Kansas City Bomber actually wrote this for Raquel Welch in mind. He actually wrote it while at this California university as his master's thesis. So he wrote it directly for Raquel Welch, but the original concept was a lot more darker. It was actually a lot more in the vein of Midnight Cowboy than anything else. And it sort of got, as the script was passed around to a few studios, it kind of got broiled down into this fairly typical sports drama that just happens to be blessed with, some good acting, some well done roller derby sequences that do. I mean, they kept my attention. I didn't exactly get bored by any of them. I mean, it's not like, because it's like, okay, my attitude about sports, because look, I grew up watching football. I played on a basketball team for 5 years, but it's like I can't go to live events anymore because it's just, the noise gets to me. I mean, having to shift your head back and forth, back and forth. Okay, they're at one end of the field, now they're at the other end of the field. Look, I know that's a very cynical attitude to have about sports, but I can't help it. I mean, I enjoyed it when I was younger. But I mean, like, if you were going to offer me a ticket to football, basketball, baseball, or hockey, I would choose hockey. I mean, I don't know if it's just because I think those guys are underpaid and underrated in terms of sports, or maybe just because they take a bashing more than anything else. I mean, like when the fights start, the ref just lets the fights go on, and that's what I kind of like about hockey more than more other sports that have much more rigid rules attached to them. But I mean, one movie that this movie kind of reminded me of a little bit was Slapshot with Paul Newman. There's a shot where we see, I don't remember if they were twins necessarily, but there was a shot here in Kansas City, a bomber, that literally reminded me of the Hanson brothers from Slapshot. And Slapshot is a gloriously raunchy and rude hockey comedy with Paul Newman, and it's just it's just a gem. It's just an absolute gem of the sports genre. Absolutely, you skate beautifully. Now, this is of course Kevin McCarthy, most famous for, of course, playing Dr. Miles Bennell in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and here he plays, I think, many times in his career after that, he played a lot of antagonists. He played a lot of villains and everything. I especially love him in Inner Space as Victor Scrimshaw, who gets into the gets into the business of shrinking, for nanotechnology and everything. But he just tells Martin Short, frankly, I don't give a shit. I'm only in it for the money. I mean, I love Kevin McCarthy. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. And, he's always a joy when he pops up in a movie somewhere, even if he plays a disposable character. I mean, he always brings, color and relish. And, I really like him. And of course, in this movie, he plays the antagonist. I mean, he wants to basically eventually use Raquel Welch for his own, financial and private and whatever. I mean, basically exploit her until until he finds somebody else to take her place and everything. And yeah, see, this is how, I mean, this was unusually violent stuff for the 70s. I mean, from what I read, I mean, when this was like broadcast on television, people were a bit shocked of seeing, women going at each other on a roller rink. I mean, I know it seems ridiculous now, but yeah, I mean, this was kind of okay. Yeah, I was going to give a little historical rundown on the history of roller derby, because I think for this movie, I think it's important. But there's basically two people that are responsible for the creation of banked track roller skating marathons, and that would be one gentleman by the name of Leo Seltzer, who is generally credited as the creator when he began the original roller derby league in 1935, and his son Jerry eventually took over the business. In 1929, after observing the popularity of cash prize awarding dance marathons among out-of-work contestants and spectators, Seltzer sought ways to capitalize on the trend. In 1931, he helped organize and promote walkathons, which at the time was another name for dance marathons, since most dancers ended up merely shuffling around for the duration of the contest, which could run as long as 40 days. His first commercial walkathon was held in Denver, Colorado, with 22 more to follow, including events at the Lotus Isle Amusement Park in Portland, Oregon, which is where this movie is eventually going to be set as we shift the action from Kansas City, Missouri to Portland. And Leo Seltzer, he grossed $2 million before retiring, citing that the events had become, quote unquote, vulgar. Sometime in early 1935, Leo read an article in Literary Digest magazine that said 93% of Americans roller skated at one time or another during their lives. Discussing the article with some of the regulars at Ricketts, a restaurant in Chicago's near North Side, Seltzer was challenged to come up with a sport utilizing roller skating participants. Bicycle races and dance marathons were very popular at the time, and in previous decades there have been successful 24-hour and multi-day roller skating races, at least one of which was called a roller derby in the press. Seltzer began jotting ideas onto the tablecloth, incorporating these popular entertainment forms with a roller skating theme. The name roller derby was trademarked on July 14th, 1935, and on August 13th, 1935, 20,000 spectators filled the Chicago Coliseum to see Colonel Leo Seltzer's Transcontinental Roller Derby, a mythical marathon race from one end of the country to the other, which incorporated both male and female participants on a banked track. Seltzer's decision to use women was a double-edged sword for the sport, since it guaranteed a large female audience at a sporting event, but the presence of women athletes made the mainstream press view roller derby as a sideshow, not a legitimate sport. The premier race in Chicago was a tremendous success, but subsequent engagements throughout the country were not as successful, and Seltzer's entire enterprise almost ended with a tragic bus crash in 1937 when 19 members of a touring group of roller derby skaters and support personnel were killed. The number one was never worn again in roller derby as a tribute to Joe Cleats and the other skaters who died in the crash. Now, the other gentleman who is responsible for the creation of modern-day roller derby is, in fact, Damon Runyon. Yes, that Damon Runyon, who is responsible for his short stories of, colorful characters. One of my favorite adaptations of Damon Runyon's stories is, of course, this movie with Mitzi Gaynor called Bloodhounds of Broadway. But he is, in fact, the one who saw Damon Runyon saw a roller derby game in Coral Gables, Florida, and he became enthralled, and with Leo Seltzer created a more structured game with more contact between the skaters, and a new version of roller derby was eventually created. Seltzer's game and traveling troupe of skaters evolved and continued to have moderate growth, but it was not until November 29th, 1948, when roller derby, broadcast on television from New York City's 69th Regiment Armory, captivated the nation. Roller derby was finally the smash hit Leo Seltzer had always envisioned. Although within a few years the sport was overexposed on television, the brand new medium that had catapulted it to prominence. Now, here we have Raquel Welch skating with her on-screen daughter, who you may not recognize just yet, but in fact we are going to discover that it is in fact Jodie Foster. Little Jodie Foster. This was her second film after the Disney movie Napoleon and Samantha, which came out a couple months before this. This actually came out August 2nd of 1972. But Napoleon and Samantha, I did a whole commentary on that. Oh my God. I never thought I would see a movie that where Jodie Foster made her film debut with Napoleon and Samantha, and apparently she was nearly devoured by one of the lions that they were using, because it's basically about two kids that travel with a lion over some rugged landscape, and the antagonist happens to be a pedophile, and Michael Douglas has to jump on a motorcycle like John Rambo at the end and try to rescue Jodie Foster, who he left in this mountain cabin with the It was one of the most bizarre movies I've ever seen in my life. I didn't necessarily hate it, but and that's all Jodie Foster you're going to see, by the way. When she pretty much leaves this movie at this point, and we completely forget about their existence, pretty much. But as you can see, Raquel Welch is having a difficult time reconnecting with her son right here because, you know, being on the road and doing roller derby has kept her away from her children for a long time. And this is, yeah, I mean, I really like what Raquel Welch does with this performance. I mean, like I said, I was very impressed with her in many moments of this film. But here's the thing: outside of the unique sport known as roller derby, and the fact that this is one of Raquel Welch's best films, does this movie, I mean, is this much more than an asterisk in film history? Is there anything beyond that to really recommend to people? Because, like I said, I was on the fence about doing this. I think the thing is that maybe it's just because I've seen so many of this type of movie already that I figured, well, there's not going to be much here to be to grab onto in that sense, but at the same time, I thought to myself, well, look, it's got Jodie Foster. It's got Kevin McCarthy, who here he is back on screen, who I really love. And I thought it had a little, and I was hoping, does it have a little bit more than just what any other sports flick from this era would provide? And you know what? It does. It is unique because of its look at roller derby in the early 1970s when it was at its peak. I don't know if this movie is shown on ESPN a lot. I know it's shown on Turner Classic Movies. Oh, that angle of Kevin McCarthy, that was great. I'd also like to welcome Hayes and that Devin Graham. I'm doing great. How about you? How about you, sir? I'm doing wonderful. Yeah, we're at the 19-minute mark of Kansas City Bomber. If you want to join in, we're at the 19-minute mark. And yeah, so Raquel Welch has just arrived in Portland, Oregon to join in on a new team. And we find out pretty quickly who's going to be her probably her closest friend and somebody else who's going to be her biggest rival. And the one who offers for her to stay at her place while she figures things out, because obviously she just arrived in town and everything. And as you can see, she just got shafted by she thought she was going to roller skate for one team, and then she got bumped to the other team. So, oh well. But yeah, but here one of the other players, like offers, to stay with her and everything. So this was a pretty moderate hit in 1972. I wasn't able to find exact numbers, to be perfectly honest, but this was a hit for MGM. And Raquel Welch's star power, I'm sure, added to that. She had just gotten divorced from her second husband. I think she felt maybe a tad more control in terms of her career, because he was kind of one of those husbands that was very controlling and domineering in terms of where her career was going to go. And yes, here is just 1 second. I mean, I always have to look up her name because she has a very unusual last name. I'm probably gonna screw it up in terms of how to pronounce it anyway. But Helena Kalyanaiotes, Kalyanaiotes. Okay. Well, she's a Greek actress. She's a Greek actress, and she plays Jackie Burdett, Raquel Welch's rival here in Kansas City Bomber. And she's still with us. She's 84 years old. During the late 1960s, she was the resident belly dancer at the Intersection, a Greek restaurant in North Hollywood. This engagement led to her first film appearance as an uncredited belly dancer in the 1968 film Head, directed by the late Bob Rafelson, who just literally passed away a few weeks ago, and starring the Monkees. She was later cast in another Rafelson film, Five Easy Pieces, starring Jack Nicholson and Karen Black, in which she played Palm Apodaca, an erotic, foul-mouthed butch hitchhiker traveling with her companion, played by Tony Basil. In 1972, she appeared in her most celebrated role as the ultra-aggressive roller derby skater Jackie Burdett in Kansas City Bomber, for which she received a Best Supporting Actress nomination. And I could see why. I mean, she is, like Raquel Welch, she is very impressive, but, in kind of a different way. Her other films included Mata Hari and Shanks, Elaine Rivas in The Drowning Pool, Anita in Stay Hungry, The Visionary Woman in The Passover Plot, and a future reading Brothel Madam in Nicholas Roeg's Eureka from 1983. She also had an uncredited role as a woman in the commune in the 1969 classic Easy Rider, directed by Dennis Hopper. But she was also in Stay Hungry, and also finally Ronaldo and Clara, which is the unreleased, I think, 12-hour film that Bob Dylan made that has never really seen the light of day. But she didn't do a lot. She didn't do a lot after Kansas City Bomber, which is kind of a shame. Ouch. It was because of my buddy John in the chat that I found out that Raquel Welch wasn't that impressed with Drew Barrymore's Whip It, or rather felt it was very, very different from Kansas City Bomber. And yeah, it is different. It is a very, very different movie. I mean, it's very much, but you got to understand these are two completely different eras of roller derby. And Whip It is very much 2009, while this is very much 1972. But I was trying to figure out what to do as a double feature with Kansas City Bomber because it's only 99 minutes. And that's when I came upon the Roger Corman film Unholy Rollers, which, like I said, we're going to be doing pretty much as soon as this is over. But yeah, I guess Raquel Welch wasn't a big fan of Whip It, which is a kind of disappointment. I mean, I loved Whip It. I mean, I want Drew Barrymore to direct more stuff. I mean, I know she's doing her talk show now and everything, but it would be awesome to see her direct another movie, I think. Oh yeah, this whole thing with the mop. Yeah, at one point he's like, "Yeah, here's the mop. Mop the floor with it." Essentially, I guess that's the whole idea. Like I said, this is a fun movie. I just don't know. This is not a movie I'm going to be returning to anytime soon. But like I said, when I saw it today, I thought to myself, you know what? That was fun. This was a fun little surprise. Set in a world, set in a sports environment that very few people have really set foot in terms of movies, and that's the thing, is that I prefer Whip It. I mean, I prefer Whip It because I like the characters there a lot more. But because, I mean, here again, this movie did more for Raquel Welch's career, I think, than anything else. And look, 11 is my lucky number. So, I mean, I have to root for her just for that reason. You know what I'm saying? I really love this moment. The tension that is brewing between these two women is very, very palpable, and it will, eventually explode a little bit later, as we shall soon see. But yeah, it's such a shame that that Helena didn't do much after Kansas City Bomber. It's Quite a shame. In 1985, she opened a private members only club in Los Angeles called Helena's. And that's about the very last thing that's available about her. So she opened up a private club in 1985 and disappeared, and she has not been in a movie pretty much since. Wow. Yeah, and you can really see what Kevin McCarthy is doing. It's like, oh, we need to build up this rivalry. We gotta make it exciting. You know what I'm saying? It's, and so in that sense, like wrestling, it's all predicted beforehand. It's all essentially staged, and then of course you have to ask the question, well, what's the point of it all then? I mean, look, if boxers get offers to actually throw the fights or whatever, like, then what's the point of actually going to the fight then? I I'm sorry, I gotta ask that question. Now, I've said this before because people have asked me, like, I remember about 15 years ago, I watched a documentary about NASCAR. And look, I've never been to any NASCAR events or any auto racing events, but look, if somebody offered me a ticket to the Daytona 500, I would go just to see what it's like. If I was ever offered a ticket to a roller derby game, I would go and check it out just because I've never been to one. Uh, but like I said, it's weird. When I was growing up, I don't remember any roller derby of any kind. I don't remember it ever being advertised. I don't remember any like commercials or newspaper ads or anything of the kind. I mean, I honestly was not really aware of what roller derby really was until Whip It came out, which, like I said, that was 2009. And here again, I always knew that this movie existed because of its name and that it had Raquel Welch, but I didn't necessarily know that it was about this sport that has had its ups and downs over the years. Oh yeah, there's the showers. Like, I guess we're going to be rivals now, huh? Yeah, yes. I was kind of hoping like one would buy like the other one a beer, like, sometime during the movie just to make peace. Like, I was hoping Raquel would actually do that at one point, but no, she never does. Because for much of the rest of the movie, we're gonna be seeing we're gonna see Helena pretty much play drunk, and she's pretty amazing when she is playing drunk in this movie. Hmm. Now, I didn't want to go through an entire overview as to what roller derby, what really entails, but here's the short version. Gameplay consists of a series of short scrimmages or jams, in which both teams designate a jammer who uniquely wears a star on the helmet, and four blockers to skate counterclockwise around a track. The jammer scores points by lapping members of the opposing team, and the teams attempt to hinder the opposing jammer while assisting their own jammer, in effect playing both offense and defense simultaneously. I mean, that's essentially what it is in a nutshell. But, and like I said, after several sequences, I think most audiences get it at that point of what it really entails. But let's see. I wanted to bring up something else here. Hmm. Let's see. It's funny that Casey is chewed out for showboating with the mop, but then is complimented by boss McCarthy for her showmanship. Yep. Slouching in doorways like a boozy Modigliani, Jackie Burdett is a failed heroine straight out of Tennessee Williams. Yes. I actually had that New York Times. I think I had that same New York Times review on standby here. Just to give a quick additional quote from it. I can see the appeal the roller games have for a movie project like Kansas City Bomber. Fast, loud, tough, and violent. They provide an instant morality play with ready-made good guys, bad guys, comic interludes, and with all the incorruptibility of the Saturday night wrestling. They also provide a certain sadomasochistic kick. At least that seems the case for this movie, in which gorgeous Casey Carr, the bomber herself, gets publicly beaten to a pulp, apparently at 5-minute intervals, by competitors on a skating track, and yet never stops coming back for more. Raquel Welch plays Casey, a basically nice girl, in the business less for blood than for money. She has two problems: the blandishments of wily roller games promoter Bert Henry, and the resentment of aging roller game star Jackie Burdett, whose fading light Casey is expected to replace. There are other problems as well, such as will Casey ever be accepted as just part of the team, the Portland Loggers, despite her unpopular eminence and her superior décolletage. But the first two are the important ones, and they suggest quite the stunning simpleness of what Kansas City Bomber is all about. Jerrold Freeman has directed Kansas City Bomber with an eye to hard-hitting action and gutsy detail, but I don't think his eye is really sharp enough or fast enough or even wide enough open. His roller game scenes seem authentic but rather unexciting, and his major stylistic contribution is to indulge a penchant for zooming his camera back, leaving characters trapped behind windows in pretentious and often ludicrous dramatic isolation. I mean, and look, Kansas City Bomber, it got a lot of mixed reviews when it came out. It wasn't necessarily, it didn't light the criticals' words on fire. Let's put it that way. It wasn't necessarily, I mean, most of the praise went to Raquel Welch, which I think was well-deserved, to be perfectly honest. In Los Angeles, roller derby was broadcast on the radio as early as 1939. The transcontinental roller derby rapidly grew in popularity as a spectator sport. Matches were held in 50 cities in 1940 for more than 5 million spectators, some of whom formed fan clubs and newsletters like Roller Derby News, later renamed Rolly Ridge. Teams began to represent and compete in other U.S. cities, although some teams were actually the same traveling group that would just change names depending upon where they were playing, and all were part of the Seltzer-owned Roller Derby League. The league's own estimates of audiences for 1941 were comparable, with 4 million Midwestern spectators in 20 cities being claimed. The entry of the United States into World War II at the end of 1941 interrupted the sport's ascent. Many skaters enlisted in the armed forces, crowds dwindled, and a fledgling league was reduced to one team skating mainly for the entertainment of soldiers. After the war's end in 1945, Seltzer successfully resumed growing the sport, although a 1946 attempt to bring it to New York's Polo Grounds failed due to 12 straight days of rain. And it wasn't really until that 1948 television broadcast, which began for a 13-week run on the CBS network, broadcasting at a time well before television was in widespread use. Like I said, this was 1948. This was November 29th, 1948, when most homes did not have television sets yet. The first televised matches were between teams representing New York and Brooklyn, and took place at the 69th Regiment Armory 4 nights a week, which was actually a reduction from the troupe's usual touring schedule that included a performance every day, sometimes with 2 on Sundays. Although few people owned TVs at the time, broadcasts could be seen on sets at bars and storefront windows. The fledgling medium allowed underwhelming audience sizes to be made to look like they had packed venues to capacity, leading spectators to turn in droves for subsequent matches. Armory crowds began in the low hundreds, but were soon in the 5,000 to 7,000 range. Then in June 1949, Seltzer secured an appearance at Madison Square Garden. I was about to say Madison Square Garden before, but I had to double check that. Before a cumulative crowd of 55,000 over a 5-day period. Early stars of roller derby after its debut on TV included Carl Moose Payne, Manita Jean Payne, Ken Monty, Burt Wall, and the temperamental Midge Tuffy Bassoon. Skater salaries were about $200 to $260 a week, established by a players' association. Meanwhile, from 46 to 48, flat truck roller derby of the skating marathon variety was enjoyed as the intramural sport at the University of British Columbia in Canada. For the 1949-50 season, Seltzer opened franchise teams and formed National Roller Derby League and consisted of 6 teams: the New York Chiefs, the Brooklyn Red Devils, the Jersey Jolters, the Philadelphia Panthers, the Washington-Baltimore Jets, and the Chicago Westerners. The Jolters played at armories in New York, New Jersey City, Teaneck, and Patterson. The Westerners played in Chicago, but also in Columbus, Ohio, and Miami, Florida. The Red Devils had no venue in Brooklyn and were essentially a road team, often cast as villains. The NRDL season playoff sold out Madison Square Garden for a week. Also in 1949, when the CBS contract expired, broadcasting was taken over by ABC and games were televised live throughout the United States. The contract with ABC lasted until Seltzer negotiated its termination in 1951 over scheduling disputes. Now, this is exactly the kind of sexist character that you would see out of something like Anchorman or something. I don't know why, but this guy actually reminded me of like Ben Stiller in that movie. If you don't cut that out, I'm going to give you something where you can feel it. I mean, in the Unholy Rollers, the movie that we're going to watch after this, I mean, Raquel Welch and Claudia Jennings have a lot in common with these two films, weirdly enough, in terms of characterization. But, of course, the difference between Raquel Welch was an A-list movie star, while Claudia Jennings was the B-movie queen of the decade, as we will soon see. But and like I said, it was in the early 1970s when Kansas City Bomber came out that its popularity was at the highest it had ever been before. The attendance record of 19,507 for a roller derby bout held in an indoor arena was set at Madison Square Garden in 1971. The all-time attendance record of 50,118 for any roller derby event was set on September 15th, 1972. 6 weeks after the release of Kansas City Bomber, at an interleague match between the Los Angeles Thunderbirds of Roller Games, National Skating Derby, and the Midwest Pioneers of Roller Derby International Roller Derby League, held at Corniske Park in Chicago, an outdoor stadium. At this point, the Bay Bombers' home team concept was duplicated with New York Chiefs representing the eastern U.S., and the Pioneers based in Chicago, but really everything west of Pennsylvania. A one-season run in 1971 by the Cincinnati Jolter team in the Midwest was not financially successful, and the team became a road franchise once again. The Bombers were briefly a Southwest team, moved from the Bay Area, but potential new owners couldn't come to terms with the Seltzer family, and so the Bay Bombers were returned home. In an unusual move, the Chiefs were a, quote, replacement team for the Bombers during the period that franchise was supposedly based in Texas. In 1973, 1 year after Kansas City bomber, this is when basically the sport got bombed. In 1973, high overhead and other factors led Jerry Seltzer to elect shutdown to roller derby entirely. In a 2005 interview, Ann Calvello mentioned gas shortages during the 1973 oil crisis as a contributing factor because teams could not travel. Makes perfect sense. Some of the IRDL star skaters were recruited to skate for Roller Games International Skating Conference, which quickly eliminated all derby teams except for the Chiefs to again focus on the Los Angeles Thunderbirds. However, within 2 years, Roller Games Wrestling circus-like approach doomed that organization. Many roller derby skaters quit and fans deserted the arenas. Cultural historian Paul Fussell, perhaps editorializing, attributed the collapse of the sport to the declining economic class of its fan base. In its final years, fans were ultimately unable to support the sponsors that have been keeping the sport on television. Wow. And there were several revivals throughout the late 70s and 1980s to bring the sport back, including Roller Games and Roller Jam. Now, in 2000, it was actually Daniel Eduardo Devil Dan Policarpo, then an Austin, Texas musician, recruited women to skate in what he envisioned would be a raucous, rockabilly, circus-like roller derby spectacle. After an organizational meeting and a disputed fundraiser, Policarpo and the women parted ways. The women then self-organized as Bad Girl, Good Woman Productions. I like that. In 2001, creating a new generation of roller derby open to women only. Founders formed 4 teams, staged their first public match in Austin in mid-2002. Shortly after the league split over business plans, the Texas Roller Girls embraced flat track play, while the BGGW League took the name TXRD Lone Star Roller Girls and went on to skate banked track roller derby. The revival then began in earnest, with over 50 similar all-female leagues in existence by late 2005. That's a comeback. That's a comeback right there. More than 80 by February 2006, and more than 135 by mid-August of 2006. The sport's sudden growth in 2006 is attributed to its exposure via the Roller Girls reality television show, which depicted portions of their lives of real skaters from the TXRD Lone Star Roller Girls. The show began broadcasting in January 2006, but was not picked up for a second season due to unsatisfactory ratings. Leagues outside the United States began forming in 2006. International competition soon followed. The first all-female Canadian league of 10 members, the Oil City Derby Girls, love that, was formed in December 2005 in Edmonton, Alberta. Terminal City Roller Girls from Vancouver, British Columbia, appeared before an audience of 4,500 on March 4th, 2006 to participate in a game of Last Woman Standing, Blood and Thunder, against the Rat City Roller Girls at the Everett Event Center in Everett, Washington. The first full international bout in women's flat track derby occurred in December 2006 when the Oil City Derby Girls hosted the Rocky Mountain Roller Girls in Denver, Colorado. By mid-2009, and this was when Whippet came out, there were 425 amateur leagues, including 79 in Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Germany, Belgium, and Sweden combined. Although this revival of roller derby was initially all-female, some leagues later introduced all-male teams. Junior roller derby leagues associated with this revival also emerged and play under modified adult derby rules. So there you have it. So the rise and fall of Rolo Derby right there in the first hour of Kansas City Bomber. So, like I said, this was shot at a pivotal moment in time when roller derby was just about to collapse, and it wasn't revived for almost 30 years. Almost 30 years. That's a long, long time. Now, here we have Kevin McCarthy again. Now, as I said before, I mostly associate him with Invasion of the Body Snatchers as well as Inner Space, which is one of my favorite Joe Dante films. But he's done quite a bit more than that, quite a bit more. He gave his first credited film performance in Death of a Salesman, when he played the son Biff Loman to Willie Loman, which was played by Frederick March. Oddly enough, that 1951 movie adaptation is very hard to find nowadays. But he got a Golden Globe Award and a nomination for Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his debut performance in Death of a Salesman. And that was essentially his breakthrough into film. But he was born in Seattle, Washington, served in World War II in the United States Air Forces. And after Death of a Salesman, he did, of course, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, and certainly, I think, the greatest science fiction film of the 1950s. Amid heavy competition, I'm aware of that, but I stand by that it is the finest of all science fiction horror films of the 1950s. On television, he starred in the short-lived series The Survivors with Lana Turner. He also appeared as a guest star in many television programs, including Alexis Smith in the anthology series The Joseph Cotton Show, The DuPont Show with June Allison. He was in a classic episode of Twilight Zone called Long Live Walter Jameson, where he played the title character. Let's see. He was also on Hawaii Five-0, Hotel, The Hell with Heroes, NBC's The Tall Man in the 1970s. Let's see. If I remember correctly, he was also in Piranha. I think that was his first film for Joe Dante. It was actually Piranha. Yeah. He played Dr. Robert Hoke in that. And see, he was in Twilight Zone, the movie, as Uncle Walt. He did some episodes of The Golden Girls. It's like, oh my God. Oh yeah, he also did Poor Little Rich Girl, the Barbara Hutton story, which, talk about one of the most overblown television spectacles I've ever seen, with Farrah Fawcett, where she basically plays a woman that inherits the Woolworth fortune and legacy. Remember Woolworth's, the clothing store, Five and Dime, Woolworth shops, whatever. She inherited this giant fortune during the Great Depression and spent the rest of her life just blowing it all on drugs and alcohol and jet setting, doing essentially nothing. And it's just seeing her descend into drugs and madness. It takes a toll on the viewer. It really, really does. Kevin McCarthy, though, he was also in Looney Tunes Back in Action, where he actually did Dr. Miles Bennell again from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Joe Dante is a huge Body Snatchers fan. In fact, he even did an audio commentary, which is available on the Olive Blu-ray, I believe, which he actually does with Kevin McCarthy and Dana Winter. So I've been traded to Denver. Okay, just to do a timestamp real quick, we are approaching the 51-minute mark. 51 minutes into Kansas City Bomber, and we have approximately 48 minutes left to go. Excuse me just for one moment here. So yeah, we're coming up here on 52 minutes. I met McCarthy at an autograph show in 1999. He was surprised Kansas City Bomber was not on VHS or DVD at the time. I asked him about Raquel, and he said, "Oh, I got along with her. I got along with her." Ah, yeah. Like I said, I didn't grow up in the 60s and the 70s, so I didn't grow up with Raquel's movies, sadly. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, when I saw Legally Blonde, that's about as much exposure as I had for Raquel Welch that I've ever had in my life. But like I said, I think Fathom remains my favorite movie of Raquel Welch's, with this one in a close second. But anyway, I should talk about this actor right here who plays, just one second. Okay, so this is Norman Alden, who plays horrible Hank Hopkins. Yeah. He was a character actor who performed in stuff like he was provided the voice of Kay in The Sword and the Stone. He had a notable role in I Never Promised You a Rose Garden. He is also known for playing Kranix and Arbius in the 1986 animated Transformers the movie. That's one of his most famous bits that he did, apparently. But no, he was also in the Wild Angels, and in 1972, this is when his career really took off, because he played a major in Tora 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 in 1970, and then this year in 1972, he did the movie Ben, which was the sequel to Willard. He was also in Where Does It Hurt, a comedy. The Woody Allen film, Everything You Always Want to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask as a Brain Technician. And then finally, Brood, Black and White. And after that, he was also in Semi-Tough, Victor Victoria. He was also in Back to the Future. He played Lou Carruthers in Back to the Future. And then, of course, he gave the voice of Kranix in Transformers, the movie. Ed Wood, he played cameraman Bill. Patch Adams as a truck driver. And his last film was actually K-Pax with Kevin Spacey, and he was credited as Babbling Man. Babbling Man. And he has a very crucial subplot here in Kansas City Bomber. It's like, oh, that hurts. Yeah. I can't imagine what kind of life this is. Just, traveling from, city to city and just doing roller derby. I mean, it's just, it seems like fun until you get injured, right? And don't forget to participate in our raffle, or you'll get free tickets to the next tournament. Oh, thanks, man. It's just not my scene. It's just not my scene at all. I mean, I would have to force myself to clap and cheer, just because I don't want to look like I'm having a horrible time. And that's another thing. I was actually surprised in the beginning of the movie when it seemed like Raquel was the only one wearing a helmet. Am I wrong? Like the rest of the Kansas City roller derby girls were not wearing helmets, it seemed like. Now, we haven't talked about the director yet. Now, the director, his name is Jerrold Freeman. Now, getting information on this guy was actually a little difficult, but let me bring this up here real quick. He has a very odd resume, to say the least, but he has. Think of Jerrold Freeman's career basically like this. He directed some television. He did one theatrical film, Kansas City Bomber. He directed a series of 8 television movies. He directed another theatrical film called Borderline. He directed another series of television movies, then another theatrical film in 1986 with Native Son, and then finally another series of television credits, including on X-Files. And his last gig was the O.J. Simpson story, a television movie that came out in 1995, which evidently he didn't want his name attached to. So it has the infamous credit of Alan Smithy. Before that name was retired, that was the name the directors chose to put on projects so they wouldn't be associated with it. I mean, he obviously did not want to be associated with the O.J. Simpson story after it was finished. But yeah, he only directed 3 theatrical films: Kansas City Bomber, Borderline, and Native Son. And Native Son, I don't think I've seen it, but it's based on the novel by Richard Wright, which I think is pretty much like, I think, taught in schools now. Although the reviews for that version have not been very good, evidently. But yeah, aside from that, that's about it. That's about it for Jerrold Freeman. I mean, I guess his biggest thing would be Night Gallery in 1970 to 71. Right before Kansas City Bomber, he did direct 6 episodes of Night Gallery, and that might have gotten him the gig for Kansas City Bomber. Norman Alden was also in an X-rated wife-swapping comedy from 1969 called All the Loving Couples. Oh, yeah, like those old doctor-approved sex videos that you couldn't exactly show pornography, but you could show it in a medical setting, you know. And you would have narrators that would say stuff like, some men find their wives' buttocks very stimulating visually. This may deem uncomfortable for the obese or older couples. Yes, this stuff actually existed. I mean, that was before Midnight Cowboy. Oh, you know what? We're about an hour into Kansas City Bomber. I can't believe I haven't talked about the original treatment for it yet. Okay, Barry Sandler was the who the story originated with. He wrote this as his UCLA MA thesis with Raquel Welch in mind for the lead role. Raquel was a huge star at the time, kind of like a pop culture goddess. I just thought it would be great to see her as a roller derby queen. It seemed like a perfect meshing of pop culture with that role. Although Sandler and Welch shared the same agent, he was a very new screenwriter who was unsure if the script would actually get read. He delivered a copy personally to the house Welch then shared with her husband and manager, Patrick Curtis. Curtis bought the script in March of 71 for their production company. She was a huge star at the time. That meant if she wanted to do it, the movie would get made. Raquel Welch said, I believe that he had me in mind when he wrote it. The girl is more than a little bitchy. And this is what Sandler says of the original script, which was very different than what the movie eventually became. Quote, and this is from Barry Sandler, the screenwriter. It was a dark, gritty character piece, more in the vein of Requiem for a Heavyweight. It's about this young woman from Kansas City who goes out to Hollywood dreaming of fame and fortune. Not Portland, Oregon, but actually Hollywood. Yes, making it in the movies, and she's really not good enough to do so, but she's so desperate to make it her name and to get attention. She struggles and struggles and never makes it. And then one day she meets this kind of beat up, bruised up, burnt out ex-roller derby queen who kind of takes her under her wing and coaches her and tries to get her involved in the role in roller derby. It sort of shows her becoming a roller derby star, and the irony is that she makes it in roller derby, but as a black trophy, as a bad girl who gets hissed at, beat up, and spit on every week. The irony is that she's able to find the stardom she desperately yearned for, but not as a movie star, as a star on the roller derby track, getting booed at and spit at every week. So it's kind of dark, much grittier and different, kind of almost along the lines of Midnight Cowboy. That would have been interesting if Raquel Welch had actually gone that far. That would have been amazing. I personally think so. I mean, absolutely. But it was originally supposed to be made at Warner Brothers. Then it went to United Artists. And eventually Raquel Welch divorced Curtis, made the film for her own company in association with Artists Entertainment Complex and Levy Gardner Levine. The film was part financed and distributed by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, whose president, James T. Aubrey, was romantically linked with Welch for a time. The lucky bastard. Over the course of moving from studio to studio, the script was heavily rewritten. Many felt the final screenplay mirrored the life of legendary roller derby star Anne Calvello, who in 1953 divorced her husband and left her young daughter with her ex-husband's family while she returned to the skating world to make a living, something which was unheard of during the 1950s. The screenplay perfectly embodied Calvello's real-life struggles. Sandler later said if the film had been made at Warner Brothers, they would have stuck to the original conception. Quote, Warner Brothers was a much more adventurous studio at the time. They were making The Devils, Clockwork Orange, Performance. They stuck with those kind of movies. MGM wanted to sell Raquel Welch in a tight roller derby jersey running around the track. Listen, they weren't stupid, okay? They were smart to do that. It certainly made them a lot of money, and it would have been a much riskier project to go the other way. They weren't sure whether Raquel could pull it off. I think she could have, but they wanted to play it much safer and go with a much straight-on roller derby story. So the film was made like that, and I think it's pretty good, but it's different kind of movie than the version I envisioned. And finally, Raquel Welch, when she was talking about this character to the press in 1972, this is what she said, quote, the motivation of the character I play is simply to make a buck in life and to attain a sense of identity. There's a futility in what she does. The shape of the track is her life, round and round, going nowhere. But the pros, the real skaters who worked with me, they were terrific. Most of them suffer from the same image I do. They're on skates, they're padded up, they're on a raised track. Most people tend to think of these girls as Amazons, but most of them are even smaller than me. They're not as muscular or as butch as you would expect. I have a similar problem. Most people are disappointed if the door hinges don't shatter off when I walk into a room. It's all set up, as everyone knows. It's too bad it couldn't be a more legitimate sport. The skaters have great athletic ability. I'm not much of an athlete. For the film, I had to learn to skate again. I hadn't skated since I was 7 years old. Wow. So like I said, this was a very important film in Raquel Welch's career. Very important. And of course, this rivalry between the two women have been brewing for pretty much the entire film now. And it's going to be exploding at any moment here. Filming was to have started in February of 1972. Welch practiced skating for several months, training with pro teams, wearing a wig and dark glasses, and posing as a journalist looking into a story. In January, a rink was constructed on the MGM soundstage, enabling Welch to practice daily. She broke her right wrist during a speed skating session, forcing shooting to be put back 8 weeks until April. Filming took place entirely in Portland, Oregon. 2 weeks into the shoot, Welch suffered a cut lip and swollen face during a fight scene with co-star Helena Kay An MGM spokesman said the two actors, quote, got carried away and Welch got slugged. Welch later said she also bruised her knees, got a spasm in her trapezius, had some hematosis on her head, and suffered several headaches. So, yeah, she did get bruised and beat up over the course of the production. So, bravo to her. Here again, impressive what Raquel Welch goes through over the course of this movie. That being said, does this movie want to check out every other film in her filmography? No. Hey, John, if you're still in the chat, let me ask you this. If you were going to choose 2 or 3 other Raquel Welch movies aside from Kansas City Bomber, because I know that's your favorite movie, but if you were going to choose 2 or 3 more, what would they be? And I'm hoping that Fathom is one of them. I mean, because like I said, Myra Breckenridge might be fascinating nowadays for all the wrong reasons, but I mean, like, what are the other good, legitimately good Raquel Welch movies? I'd really like to know. Damn! It's just, she just keeps punching her while the train's coming. Wow. Now, we haven't talked about, I loved Fathom. Great fun. British critic Halliwell said it was her best performance. Yeah. Although it's weird because the only other 2 films that Raquel Welch said that she was proud of was L'Animal and The Three Musketeers. And she also thought she was good in The Last of Sheila. I think I tried watching Last of Sheila one time and I couldn't quite get into that, but I'm probably going to do that next year, just to let you all know. I'm probably going to do it next year. She's attractive decoration in Fantastic Voyage. Also good in the original Bedazzled, The Last of Sheila, and Fuzz. Yeah, Fuzz was another one I was contemplating whether to do a 50th anniversary commentary on, and ultimately I passed on it. But Arthur Murphy of Variety wrote, Raquel Welch stars in one of her most effective roles to date. Rugged, brawling action will be more than satisfy those who enjoy that type of commercial carnage, while the script explores deftly the cynical manipulation of players and audiences. Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune gave the film 3 stars out of 4 and thought it was more than good fun. It's a gas. Of course, ironically, it would be gas that would lead to the downfall of roller derby. Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times thought Welch comes through with a characterization as unexpected as it is persuasive, and said the film is a well-observed slice of contemporary Americana, which marks Raquel Welch's coming of age as an actress and as a personal triumph for her after surviving more rotten movies than anyone would care to remember. And finally, Tom Milne of the Monthly Film Bulletin wrote that for a few minutes, the film was fast, furious, and funny until the dismally scripted film turned serious, and Joyce Haber called it one of the worst films of 1972. I obviously absolutely disagree with that. I can't say it's not going to be on my top 11 films. It might make my top 11, but I don't know. At the end of the year, I will be doing a top 11 films of 1972, and right now it's a little questionable as if Kansas City Bomber is going to make it. But I think it'll be at least I think it will at least be an honorable mention. Hanny Calder is an interesting Western. Tarantino liked it. Yeah, I thought that was actually considered one of her better films, too. Because I know, nobody thinks 1 Million BC is a good film. Or Myra Breckinridge, for that matter, although that has a cult audience now. Believe it or not. I mean, I saw the original Bedazzled. It was fun. I don't need to see it again, though. So yeah, the Act 3 of Kansas City Bomber, because we have about 26 minutes left here, is going to be focusing on the downfall of horrible Hank Hopkins, who is, of course, roller skating around here, going a little crazy. They got their whole men's team back there. Oh! And, of course, the tragedy of all this is that he's just doing his job. He's just doing what he's told. But, this is the type of abuse that he endures now. And, I guess I could see why critics would say that the fun drains away at this point, I guess. But I'm actually kind of glad that it focused on, the psychological effect that the sport could have on its players. This is not like the Unholy Rollers, which we're going to watch in a minute, which is all about, exploitation and stuff like that. It's all about showing off the boobs and everything. But with this movie, there is at least a undercurrent of serious subject matter, which I think suits the movie just fine. Like I said, this is a movie about roller derby. I would want a movie that focuses on the sport and showcases the good, the bad, and the ugly of that said sport. And I do think that Kansas City Bomber accomplishes that. This is indeed all the good, the bad, and the ugly. Oh, man. Just, so many injuries, so many potential lawsuits. Oh, my God. Now, we haven't really talked about the trainer, Vivian. She's played by an actress named Jean Cooper, who passed away in 2013. Right after Kansas City Bomber, she joined the cast of the soap opera The Young and the Restless and was on that show for 50 years. Oh, no, sorry, 40 years. Not 50 years, but 40 years. 73 to 2013, she was on the CBS soap opera The Young and the Restless. At the time of her death, she was 8th on the all-time list of longest-serving soap opera actors in the United States, and she was the mother of 3 children, the eldest being actor Corbin Burnson, who I believe was in Major League, the 1989 baseball comedy. But in addition to Kansas City Bomber, Jean Cooper also did nothing else that I recognize, except for maybe The Intruder, The Boston Strangler with Tony Curtis, The All-American Boy with Jon Voight, Beyond Suspicion, and her last few films were in 2009 called Donna on Demand and Dead Air. And she was also in episodes of Perry Mason, The Twilight Zone, Wanted Dead or Alive with Steve McQueen, Wagon Train, Bonanza, all those glorious Western shows that are now buried in the past and, covered up with dust. And, it's amazing. We'll probably never see an era like that again, where there was probably Westerns on every fucking channel. That's your choice of television, everybody. Westerns or the Twilight Zone. I'll opt for the Twilight Zone. My only criticism is Casey's character. Why does she want to be friends with Jackie? And how come she's so innocent of everything bad that happens around her? She's a bit too good to be true. Yeah, I mean, here again, I would put that down to Raquel Welch just wanting to soften up the character a little bit. Maybe try to gain some audience sympathy for her, which may not have been present in the original script. I'm not really sure. It is weird that her motivations are a little bit muddy, but I mean, I still like her performance, though. All right, we're coming up here on about an hour and 18 minutes. An hour and 18 minutes left of Kansas City Bomber. So we're gonna, as soon as this movie's over, I'm not even gonna sit through the end credits, but I'm going to pause for approximately 5 minutes, about 5, 6, 7 minutes, and we will come back and watch the Unholy Rollers. Now, the Unholy Rollers, you can get that on Amazon. You can actually watch it for free if you get a subscription to one of the channels that they have. And you can just cancel it after a week and you won't be charged. But that's the only way you're going to be able to watch Unholy Rollers. I mean, it's not available anywhere else, just on Amazon Prime if you watch it through that one channel. So there you go. And for those who are listening that are not going to be around for the second commentary, just to let you all know that my next commentary will be tomorrow night at 9 p.m. It will be on the 1982 film 5 Days, One Summer, directed by Fred Zinnemann, his very last movie, and starring Sean Connery and Betsy Brantley. And it's based on a short story and set in the Swiss Alps. And it deals with the subject of incestuous love. Ooh. Yeah, Sean Connery plays a doctor who evidently is having a secret love affair with his own niece. Yeah, you heard that right. Like I said, that will be tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And very, very soon, I will be doing other Lad Company films like The Right Stuff and Twice Upon a Time and Love Child, and even this month we are also going to be doing the Police Academy movies. The first two Police Academy movies I will be doing commentaries for. None of the others, but I'm going to be doing the first two. So keep your eyes peeled for those Twitter announcements as they come around the bend. Yeah, this is pretty sad what this character goes through, and that he did everything he was supposed to do. He got paid for everything he was supposed to do, and he ends up being fired. I mean, he had probably been doing the sport for a long time as well. Yeah. The whole movie was shot in Portland with all skating scenes at the same Portland Expo. I think they covered that up pretty well. I think I read this was filmed entirely in Portland. It wasn't like they went back to like California for like pickup shots or anything like that. This is all Portland, Oregon. Oh. And of course, Kevin McCarthy is going to put a stop to this. Kevin McCarthy is just wearing a suit in practically every scene. He's always wearing a suit in every single scene in this movie. God, what a clown. But this is kind of sad. This is kind of sad and kind of tragic because, I mean, like I said, I mean, admittedly, this movie was not meant to be a comedy. This is actually a sports drama. And, in a lot of these type of movies, there's always like maybe a player that has, some kind of issue, that needs to be resolved or whatnot. And I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he does make an impression on the audience in this movie. I mean, it's kind of sad that there's no really like any resolution for him because once he's gone, he's gone. But he's gone with Jodie Foster essentially. In fact, the bar, the houseboat, and the skating rink are all within 10 minutes of each other. Oh my God. I should have brought on board a Portland resident. If I knew anybody from Portland, I would definitely brought him on for this commentary. Oh, wow. Now, see, this is an example of a type of scene. It's like, this scene really drags. I mean, Kevin McCarthy, as he comes around and tries to, ensure that she's not going to, that she's actually going to lose and go with him to Chicago and basically be, basically be her, turn her into a star, but at the same time, almost keeping him or her in his bedroom, like pretty much, when she's not out there on the rink. Use her professionally and personally, essentially. But she's got 2 kids to worry about, man. She can't deal with all that. Even if she were interested, she can't deal with that because she's got 2 kids to look after. Well, especially after what happened to Jodie Foster on Napoleon and Samantha. I want Raquel Welch to look after her. Oh yeah, the new Chicago franchise. Yeah, sure. I mean, like all this could have been trimmed. I mean, weirdly enough, I do think this movie could have used about 10 or 15 minutes of trimming. I think as like an 85-minute movie, I think it would have played a lot better. Maybe that's just me, but like this sequence right here is just a stretch. It really is a stretch. I mean, we kind of know all this information already, But at any rate, we are getting close to an hour and 25 minutes, and we have approximately 14 minutes left to go. So the big question, which route is Raquel Welch's character going to take? Is she going to go to Chicago with Kevin McCarthy, or is she going to win the game and consequently beat the shit out of her rival? I mean, and that's another thing. I mean, obviously she's thinking about her kids. I understand that. But then again, we never see her kids again. We see them in the beginning, and then they disappear for the rest of the movie. So it's like, well, they did cut a scene in the trailer where they discuss Casey's problem with Jackie. I want it added back. Yeah, like I said, I mean, and I don't think this has ever gotten a Blu-ray treatment. I don't think it's ever gotten anything more than just I think it got a standard DVD eventually. Yeah, it's on Warner Archive. It's on Warner Archive DVD, but that's about it. That is really seriously about it as far as Kansas City Bomber. Yeah, you can get a DVD of it, but it doesn't have any extras. It doesn't have any, and I'm not so sure that the picture quality and sound quality are any better than what you would watch here on Amazon Prime when you stream it. I just can't imagine it being any better. But it's kind of a shame that Raquel Welch didn't do like. It would be nice to hear like a commentary from her about this movie Because I know she did one for Myra Breckenridge, believe it or not. She actually did a commentary for Myra Breckenridge. So you would think that she'd want to do one for Kansas City Bomber as well. And John, also to answer your question about, all that stuff probably got, whittled down and screwed with in the later drafts of the script. Because remember that the entire dark treatment that was at Warner Brothers is completely different than what we have here in this final film from MGM. Yeah, so we're down. Oh! Just yeah, whatever. Just take down the announcer. Yeah, there you go. That was pretty cool, actually. Yeah, and here we go, trumping up the rivalry again. It's like, so in that sense, they're acting on top of acting right here. Yeah, it's a shame. We never see Jackie ever again. Pretty much like I said, I mean, her career was very short-lived after this, and she opened up that private club and then disappeared forever. And, Raquel, I mean, she did her fair share of movies after this. I know that she's probably not personally satisfied with a lot of them, but, she did do her fair share of movies after this. I mean, she turns 82 on September 5th. Yep. She turns 82 years old on September 5th. Yeah, I know. Here again. I mean, she was in Bluebeard and Fuzz the same year. Then Last of Sheila, then Three Musketeers, which she got her the Golden Globe, and the Four Musketeers, The Wild Party, 1975. That's about it. I mean, yeah, she was in Legally Blonde. She was in Naked Gun 33 and a Third. Her last film was How to Be a Latin Lover, starring Eugenio Derbez, which apparently was a pretty big hit. Yeah, she was in her mid-70s when she did that one, but still with us. Yeah, still it doesn't do. And I thought she was active on Twitter at one point in time. I don't believe she is active on Twitter anymore, but I think she used to be. But Kevin McCarthy. I don't think anybody's going to be shocked about which direction Raquel Welch's character decides to go here at the end. I don't think anybody is expecting anything else. I mean, but those little roller derby shorts. So yeah, the director didn't do much after this, and the star didn't even do much after this. But yeah. Is there anything else I have missed? Because I know we got 8 minutes left to go. Thank you again for everybody showing out tonight. I see we're up to 11 viewers. That's awesome. Matches the jersey number, and that's my lucky number. So that gives me great satisfaction that this that I have up to 11 viewers now at the same time. That's pretty cool. But yeah, like I said, right after we finish, give it a 5-6 minute break, and we'll do Unholy Rollers, which supervising editor Martin Scorsese. I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there right now. He didn't direct it, but he did edit it. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Let's skate this thing for real. Just straight out. You and me. As we finally end this rivalry that's been building, kind of artificially, but also a little bit naturally, because here again, they actually did have fist fights behind the scenes. So evidently there was something going on between Raquel Welch and her off camera as well. Yeah, some of the best shots in this movie are basically just them with the skates on off of the rink. It's what I've noticed with this film. I really do like when the characters are just, when we see what they're going through, have an idea what they're thinking based on their facial reactions as they're just, skating through the dark just to get out to this arena. Yep. Yep. Raquel broke her wrist early on. She wears a brace in the movie. The film's shut down for 6 weeks. Yep. Mm-hmm. Like I said, you would think that this movie being a big hit or a modest hit for MGM, it would have started more roller derby movies after that. But all we had was the Unholy Rollers. I mean, and granted, we had Rollerball in '75, but that one's a little bit different. Neither girl able to get that advantage. 4 to go. 4 laps to go in a match race. Is it legal to actually pull their hair? Is that actually legal? Not that I saw it. I'm just saying. I mean, these ladies are going for this down and dirty. You know what I'm saying? Oh, man. Now, like I said, the vulgarity is going to increase tenfold with the Unholy Rollers, thanks to executive producer Roger Corman. You get kicked with those skates on, that could do some serious damage. No shit, those skates would hurt. It would hurt. Oh, nice. Considering the fact this is probably the first roller derby movie, I guess that would be. Is it safe to say that? I think this is the very first roller derby movie. I mean, you might as well break the rules because, I mean, who the hell cares about the rules at this point? And Kevin McCarthy is absolutely convinced that she's going to lose so she can join him in Chicago. He really does think that. Hair pulling. Oh. Oh, so violent. I mean, you could lose teeth doing that. Oh, man. And here, okay. There's one thing about this movie I found a little annoying, and that's here at the very, very end, where it does that like sports coverage television thing where they have to repeat the play that leads to the win over and over and over again. I was actually surprised how many times the editor of Kansas City Bomber felt the need to do it 3 times from 3 different angles. Because the second time I saw it from another angle, I laughed. And then the third angle, I was kind of like, okay, just let her get through the damn ribbon already, Let's end this. Let's end this, okay? Just let her get through the damn ribbon to end the movie, okay? We know. But yeah, Raquel refuses to quit. Refuses to quit for anything at this point. All right, yeah, here we are right here. See, there's number 1. She you see her throw her down in slow motion. That's the first one. There's the second time, the exact same motion from a different angle. I mean, when I saw that, I laughed my ass off. And then the third time it has to happen is like, okay, no, we don't need any more takes of this. Go back at normal speed and end the movie already. Okay, let's do it. Otherwise, I do like the movie. I do like Kansas City Bomber, except for those couple things. Yeah. There was a documentary called Derby the year before. I'd like to see it. Oh. And like I said, we're going to do the Unholy Rollers right here on this same stream. Pretty much when the end credits for Kansas City Bombers start, I'm going to pause, and I'll be back in 5, 6, 7 minutes as I get some water, check on some things, and we will go ahead and start on Unholy Rollers. So we'll probably be starting the movie at about right before 11 o'clock. And this is very much a midnight movie in every sense. So we'll definitely be watching it at the most appropriate time. Yay! Casey! Yeah, one of Raquel's best performances, bar none. And we conclude the movie with I believe it's a freeze frame of her. Eventually. I mean, I don't know how many times we have to circle the Derby again, but okay, there we go. Now it ends on the freeze frame. No, we need more takes. No, we don't. We don't need any more of those. Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. You said nothing about the music. Beautiful blues theme by Don Ellis. I do absolutely agree with that. There was a song that they made, but it was rejected. But yeah, the blues theme is really good. So anyway, I will be back in approximately 6, 7 minutes. So let's say 10 minutes to 11, 10 minutes to 11, and we will go ahead and start the Unholy Rollers. I will be paused at the Orion Films logo. I'll be right back. Get the motherfucker. All right, I'm back, and we are going to be doing a bonus commentary tonight for the Unholy Rollers, directed by Vernon Zimmerman and produced by Roger Corman, starring Claudia Jennings, the late legendary Playboy Playmate of the Year 1970, Claudia Jennings, who also became the B-movie queen of the 1970s. At any rate, I'd like to welcome you all out tonight. I hope you enjoyed the Kansas City Bomber commentary. And now we're about to start Unholy Rollers. Just to say hi real quick, Dying Breed, always great to see you, sir. There in the chat. John and let's see. I hope John is still here, as well as Cliff Booth, Daniel Shine, Devin Graham, and yeah, Cliff Booth, I hope you all still with us as well. So let's go ahead and get started on Unholy Rollers. Why not? So we are paused at the Orion logo, and it's only available on the Screen Picks channel on Amazon. Pause at the Orion logo, so we'll count down from 3, 2, 1, and play. So we are now playing Unholy Rollers, which Roger Corman basically saw the success of Kansas City Bomber and said, okay, we need our own roller derby movie. So this was made within 3 months of American International Pictures right here. Was made only approximately 3 months after Kansas City Bomber. Came out in November of 1972. Now, it looks as if the budget is about a fifth the size of Kansas City Bomber. The budget and the production quality, but this is a very scrappy Roger Corman film, which were very prevalent at the time, thanks to American International Pictures and New World Pictures, and so many people got their start with Roger Corman. I mean, Jodie, who we talked about in the previous commentary, of course, he got his start with Roger Corman. So many other big directors, including one that will actually see their name here pop up very unusually. I never saw such a cheapskate in my life. Now, like Kansas City Bomber, we have a scene with the national anthem. But while they don't really do anything special with it in Kansas City Bomber, here they decided that, well, somebody thought it would be funny. Somebody thought it would be funny to actually just have the record player start skipping, and nobody is going to the fucking record player to actually fix it. Look, I'm sure this got a few laughs in 1972. Look at the cop. But I mean, really? I mean, this is the low bar of comedy that we're talking about here. And that's the thing, is that this is essentially, it's different enough from Kansas City Bomber that you can't necessarily call it a ripoff. But, it's definitely more raucous and get on with that fucker. Yes. But you know what? Here's the thing. When I sat down to watch this, I didn't expect much from it. And I got to admit, I got more entertainment value from this film more than I expected. I mean, considering the fact that, this film is inferior to Kansas City Bomber, I think that goes without saying that this film is definitely inferior. But at the same time, I still had a lot of fun watching it. And unlike Kansas City Bomber, it doesn't take that serious shift in tone. And a supervising editor, Martin Scorsese, yes. He had directed Boxcar Bertha, which we had done a commentary on just a few weeks ago for Roger Corman. And he learned his editing on this picture. So that's an asterisk in music director Bobby Hart. We'll see him perform here in a bit. Screenplay by Harold R. Cohen, based on a story by Vernon Zimmerman and Howard R. Cohen. Howard R. Cohen had written a lot of movies for Roger Corman back in the 70s and the 80s. In fact, I know I've seen his name pop up in like dozens and dozens of things, like Saturday the 14th, stuff like that. I mean, oh, his name is probably attached to a lot more than I'm thinking of right now. Yeah. This was his first story and screenplay credit, Howard R. Cohen. He also did The Young Nurses, which was one of those nurse exploitation pictures from Roger Corman back in the day. Cover Girl Models, Vampire Hookers, Fighting Mad, Saturday the 14th, Space Raiders, Striker, Death Stalker, Barbarian Queen, Jason the Wheeled Warriors, Rainbow Bright and the Star Stealer. And he also wrote 11 episodes of The Care Bears, 7 episodes of Rainbow Bright, 2 episodes of Lady Lovelocks and the Pixie Tales, and he also wrote Deathstalker and the Warriors from Hell, as well as Barbarian Queen 2, The Empress Strikes Back, Deathstalker 4, Match of the Titans, and his final credit was in 1998 for a documentary called Magic and Beyond. So, but yeah, he started out with Roger Corman. Now, here we have legendary and the legendarily gorgeous Claudia Jennings. Now, the only film that I had associated Claudia Jennings with before watching this was a movie called Gator Bait. And that was actually more, I remember the cover of the DVD or the VHS tape more than anything else for Gator Bait. And those who frequented VHS stores back in the day will know exactly what I'm talking about, because that cover is epic. The movie sucks. I got to be honest, I don't think I even finished Gator Bait. I thought it was one of the most crude, one of the most, I don't know, I found it unwatchable. Despite Claude Jennings' obvious beauty, I found it virtually unwatchable and one of the worst movies I've ever seen. So, but I'm glad that I finally came around and watched Claudia Jennings here in Unholy Rollers, because she is this movie. She is so awesome, and she brings so much to this role that she makes the movie worth seeing, despite the fact that we have to deal with a lot of Roger Corman crap. And we'll soon find out with scenes of sexual harassment, sexual molestation at the expense of comedy. So yeah, she's working at a cannery here, a cat food cannery. And, of course, she's tired of working for a pervert, and, she's ready to, quit the job and find something new, do something new with her life. And what does she decide to do? She becomes a roller derby queen. It's as simple as that, people. I mean, the plot doesn't get any more complicated than that. And so we're about to go in on her roommates who are apparently having sex. As you can see, there's a Ford decal that says fuck instead of Ford. I guess Ford didn't sue over the use of their logo, because I didn't find anything definitive saying they had to. But, early on, we have to have some nudity here. Roger Corman was all about, make sure we have nudity. I mean, even Barbara Hershey got naked in Boxcar Bertha, So the running joke in this movie regarding these characters is that they're always having sex. They're always having sex in unusual positions. They're very, very much so a very kinky couple, needless to say. Gator Bait was my hillbilly grandmother's favorite movie. I couldn't watch it. I couldn't watch it. I thought it was the worst, one of the worst things I've ever seen. I can't, I don't know. I can't elaborate any more than that. I just was shocked at how bad it was. I was shocked at how, backwoods muddy it was. I mean, I found it very unappealing. But okay, so we should talk about Claudia Jennings, who is very much the star of Unholy Rollers, and she sadly passed away much too young. She was only 29 years old when she died in an auto accident, and she had done a series of B films, largely for Roger Corman, but her last film was actually with director David Cronenberg. And that was, of course, Fast Company in 1979. Excuse me. She worked as a receptionist at Playboy magazine and then posed for the magazine in 1969. She adopted the name Claudia Jennings because she didn't want to embarrass her family, and she thought Mimi, her real name, sounded too girlish. Her original pictorial was photographed by Pompeo Posar. She was Playmate of the Year in 1970 and was awarded a Pink Mercury Capri. After her appearances in Playboy, Jennings became an actress in exploitation movies and television. In 1973, she had a guest appearance on the Brady Bunch episode Adios, Johnny Bravo. And Jennings auditioned for the role as Kate Jackson's replacement on the hit television series Charlie's Angels, but the role was eventually rewarded to Shelley Hack. On October 3rd, 1979, Jennings died in an automobile collision on the Pacific Coast Highway near Malibu, California. She was 29. She was featured in a 2000 episode of E! True Hollywood Story, for which several of her friends and acquaintances were interviewed, but the episode was made without the cooperation of her family, who consider the show too, quote, tabloid in style. And yeah, she only made 17 movies. And most of these movies, like, okay, she only had a cameo in the Nicholas Roeg's The Man Who Fell to Earth with David Bowie. And she had a small role in The Love Machine, which was based on the Jacqueline Suzanne novel. But after Unholy Rollers, she did like Truck Stop Women and Single Girls, Gator Bait, which we mentioned before, Sisters of Death, The Great Texas Dynamite Chase, Moonshine County Express, Death Sport, and then finally Fast Company. And I find it kind of funny that Fast Company is, of course, about auto racing, and Claudia Jennings sadly died in an auto accident the same year. That's very, very sad. Very, very sad. But I would have hoped that her career would have blossomed out of that B movie market that she was kind of stuck in. But I mean, look, I have looked at those pictures of Playboy that she did in 1970, and look, I cannot deny that she was insanely gorgeous, and she still has her fans. I mean, it's really weird. Maybe it's just because she died at 29, but she still has her fans very much today. I mean, and from what I read, Unholy Rollers is considered one of her best films, if not her best film, just in terms of the character and everything that she does with it. And here again, not an exact replicate of Kansas City Bomber. This is a lot more sleazier. This is a lot more profane. This was a lot more 1950s rock and roll, as we see right here. This band right here. Here's a throwback for you. Let me bring this up just real quick. So yeah, this is Martin Scorsese's first job as an editor. That's right. Pacific Northwest band Louie and the Rockets performed several cover songs for the film, including Johnny Be Good, Rock and Roll Music, Roll Over Beethoven, and several others. The songs are only heard in original 35mm theatrical prints of the film, which this in fact is. And due to music rights issues, home video and cable television versions replace the songs with instrumental music. Well, I'm glad I'm watching an original 35mm theatrical print of the Unholy Rollers now, as opposed to a, like what they did with Heroes, where they took out the song, which made the ending of the movie so powerful, and replaced it with something else that they didn't have to pay the rights for. Whenever they do that, they always ruin it. So thankful that the only way you can watch this now is the original 35mm print. Although, I mean, we just had a silicone joke. I mean, look, this stuff is just lowbrow. This is lowbrow stuff, guys. I mean, come on. Now, I'm glad John brought up Roger Ebert, because I wanted to share his review on this. He actually gave it 2.5 stars. He actually kind of liked the Unholy Rollers. Okay, so yeah, Roger Ebert loved Jennings in this. He also seemed to prefer this one over KCB. Really? Is that true? Let me look up his rating for Kansas City Bomber real quick. And you know what? I don't see any review for Kansas City Bomber. But he did do a review on Unholy Rollers, and here it is right here. Unholy Rollers began life, I understand, as an intended ripoff of the expensive Raquel Welch movie Kansas City Bomber. The idea was to get into the theaters first. Raquel beat it to the starting gate. Alas, so it was held up until now, presumably to give us time to work up another lather for a roller derby movie. Well, I've never had much of an appetite in the first place. On a scale of values encompassing the arts and customs of Western civilization, the roller derby has always seemed to me to rank between yo-yo championships and rotary nose hair clippers. Still, I went to see Unholy Rollers partly because of my fond memories of Claudia Jennings as Playboy's Playmate of the Year. Yeah. Miss Jennings was all golden and sleek in Playboy. The kind of girl you never allow to open the door of her own Lamborghini. That makes her performance in Unholy Rollers all the more astonishing. How can I describe it? She plays a very tough broad and turns in the hardest, most vicious female performance in a long time. It is perhaps a tribute to some vestigial chivalry in Hollywood that women are seldom permitted to play real villains. But we get a real one this time. That's one of the most interesting things about Unholy Rollers, that it doesn't go soft and sentimental around the edges. In most movies of this sort, if the female lead is a heavy, there's some explanation made. She had an unhappy childhood or a cruel father or something like that. Unholy Rollers makes no excuses at all. Its heroine was born mean, I guess. The movie was directed by Vernon Zimmerman and written by Howard R. Cohen, both former Chicagoans who had been making fairly steady headway in Hollywood during the last couple of years. Oh, so he had a Chicago bias here. Unholy Rollers does not represent the high point of their careers, and I'm sure they would be the first to point that out, and both have more ambitious projects in the works right now. But the movie does have a rough, tough, sleazy, vulgar vitality, and it glorifies in a lower middle-age class point of view that is unaffected and sometimes very funny. The story, which is never allowed to get in the movie's way, begins with the heroine working in a cat food factory. One day, in a fit of rage at the foreman, she throws several cans of cat food at him and then speeds up the automatic canning machine so that it hurls cat food all over the place. I think you will agree this is a more satisfactory beginning than your ordinary rags to rags story in which the heroine is turned away from the door of an orphanage and sold to a white slaver. What the fuck? Anyway, she tries out for a roller derby team, makes the grade, and soon becomes a star because she refuses to follow the script. There are some nice scenes in which the team coach briefs his players on the 4 positions where they should have their fights in relation to the TV camera. But pride goeth before a fall, and after her attacks for her own teammate, she is banished. In the words of the TV announcer, from the ring, from the hall, from the game. The movie isn't an underground masterpiece, but it is filled with a lot of nice little touches, both visually and in the both visually and in the dialogue, and it has a nice sense of movement and fun. If Zimmerman and Cohen had gone for a conventional low-budget melodrama, their material would never have worked. As it is, they get a sort of grease-like effect, even to the point of including a rock group named Louie and the Rockets that makes Buddy Holly and the Crickets look like advocates of the dry look. Here, I guess you could say, is a movie with the courage of its own lack of convictions. I'm trying to process all that. I really am, you know? Because look, okay, this is not the worst movie I've ever seen. And look, I had some fun watching Unholy Rollers. I'm not going to lie about that. I think he's given it a little too much praise. This film is nowhere near as good as Kansas City Bomber. I mean, it's... And admittedly, I almost didn't want to include this movie as a commentary, as a bonus commentary. But look, we have a scene like this where, look, I don't remember the guy's name and I don't want to look it up, but it makes me think of that, you know, Olympic doctor that took advantage of, you know, his patients and molested them and everything. It just, you know, the stuff just doesn't. It's not as funny as it was to 1972 audiences. You know, times have changed. The culture has evolved, kind of. And this stuff just does not play now. It just doesn't. I wasn't offended by this as so much as just it just made me cringe a little bit because it just, oh, they think this is the kind of humor that we're going to respond to and everything, you know. It's like young woman, the human hand is the most efficient instrument ever devised. Oh, Jesus Christ. You know, I mean, that's what I'm saying is that it just, I mean, maybe as a teenager, if I was hocked up on Jolt Cola or something, I'd probably be laughing my ass off at this and just, you know, impatient about, you know, her clothes being taken off. But look, I mean, you know, I'm not that teenager anymore. I'm watching this as, you know, it's a little cringy. It's a little cringy. Claudia Jennings visually is enough to get through it. I got to admit, and I know the irony of that, but you know, look, I mean, you know, she's the best thing in this movie. Like I said, bar none. I mean, there's not much else aside from Martin Scorsese's editing credit to distinguish this from anything else that came out at the time, even Kansas City Bomber. He never officially reviewed Kansas City Bomber, but he refers to it snidely. Oh, God. Yeah, so yeah, this is the toxic shit that we have to endure in this movie. I mean, but look, there are funny moments. There are funny moments scattered throughout the movie that, like I said, don't involve, you know, sexual assault. So you should be ashamed of yourself, doctor. Do you need any pills or anything? I'm not sure if I'm going to see any of Claudia Jennings' other movies. To be perfectly honest, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing the David Cronenberg movie, the very last one that she did, and you know, I may watch Man Who Fell to Earth sometime again, but this is probably going to be the extent of my Claudia Jennings movie watching. But and like I said, I like her in this movie. I just wish that you know, the Roger Corman sleaze, you know, the sleaze factor. It's just, it's a little too embarrassing and cringy now. See, that's what I like about her character here. She doesn't take shit from no one. She doesn't take shit from anybody in this movie. Yeah, see, oh, haha, like what position were they in? Were they fucking, like, and everything? I mean, whatever, right? We've had movies that have done these type of jokes much better since then. Why does she look like Mariel Hemingway? I know that's not Mariel Hemingway, but she has like her face. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. She has the face of Mariel Hemingway. Maybe not body, but she certainly has the face. What? See, Martin Scorsese, he edited this like a roller coaster ride. We see some of Claudia's life outside of the Derby ring, and then we go back into the Derby ring for all these. I don't know if I would compare these to like the boxing scenes in Raging Bull as far as like screen impact is concerned, but look, I mean, he edited the film just fine. It proved that he could edit a film. it proved. I think she resembles Bridget Fonda a bit. Oh. Moonshine County Express with Maureen McCormick, William Conrad, and John Saxon is worth a look. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely take that recommendation, John. Thank you. I mean, just anything but gator bait. Anything but gator bait. I cannot sit through that again. I can sit through Unholy Rollers again. I'll check out the Moonshine County Express, but I'm not going to sit through gator bait. I can't do it. I just can't do it. Yeah, so it really is a shame that she wasn't given another chance. I mean, and granted, remember when she worked with David Cronenberg, he was just starting out. This was even before The Brood. This is something like, this was like Cronenberg's, American Graffiti almost. It was made on a very, very low budget. And, she essentially starred in the movie with William Smith, who did a lot of movies like Conan the Barbarian and, Stuntman and everything. But it would have been interesting to see what Jennings would have done after that Cronenberg movie if she had, gone into, much more serious, if low budget fare, or, because eventually she would have had to have stopped the, the sexploitation stuff at some point. But ironically, that's why she has a lot of fans today, is because they love those movies like this one that she did with Roger Corman. But I'll definitely check out that Moonshine County Express. I'll definitely check that out. Oh, it had John Saxon in it. Producer Roger Corman always thought one of the reasons the film was so popular was because it did not put down Southern people. It was one of several Corman-financed movies starring John Saxon. Oh. And it was released by his New World Pictures. Oh. Out of print on Blu-ray, but I can get a DVD of it. Okay. Oh, those cheap-ass masks. So I guess it's not a requirement to wear a helmet. I guess it's just roller discretion if you want to wear a helmet or not. I don't know. I was confused about that from the opening sequence of Kansas City Bomber. He's a disgrace to the game. All right, do a timestamp real quick. We are at the 28-minute mark. The 28-minute mark of Unholy Rollers. And we got about an hour left to go. And Trust me, we got a lot more sexual shenanigans to get through coming up here. Yeah. Now, to be perfectly honest, I mean, a lot of the supporting cast I just straight up don't recognize. Um, the actor who plays Mr. Stern is a guy named Lewis Quinn, and he was on the ABC Warner Brothers detective series 77 Sunset Strip, and he did a writing career at Warner Brothers, and he also played in supporting roles such as Al Capone, Crowded Sky, Gypsy, For Those Who Think Young, Birds Do It, Super Chick, Linda Lovelace for President, yeah, that, and All the President's Men. He was also the MC for the premiere of Mary Poppins at Grauman's Chinese Theater on August 27th, 1964, though he did not appear in the film itself. And, of course, in the rival role of Jennifer, we have another starlet of that era, Roberta Collins, known for her attractive physique, blonde, curly hair, and Marilyn Monroe appearance. She starred in many exploitation films, including the prostitute Clara in Tobe Hooper's Eaten Alive, and Matilda the Hun in the science fiction film Death Race 2000. Jack Hill, who directed her in The Big Dollhouse, said of her, quote, "I think she could have had a great career, but she couldn't get her personal life together. She would be fantastic one day, do everything right, and then she would be out until 4 a.m. partying, and the next day she would be useless." But yeah, that's Roberta Collins. She plays Jennifer in this movie. Other than that, everybody else is a virtual unknown here. I mean, there's really, and on top of everything else, the director is a question mark because, okay, let's put it this way. I'm well aware of who Vernon Zimmerman was before I sat down to watch the Unholy Rollers. He had directed a film written by Terrence Malick, of all people, called Deadhead Miles, which came out in 1973. He also wrote Hex, and he also wrote and directed Bobby Joe and the Outlaw, starring Linda Carter, which came out right after her fame on Wonder Woman. But what I know Vernon Zimmerman best from is, without a doubt, Fade to Black. Now, this Blu-ray release was released by Vinegar Syndrome. And basically, Dennis Christopher stars as a film buff. He loves movies. And then he decides to start cosplaying his favorite movie characters and kill people. It's a very early slasher movie. He dresses up like Dracula. He dresses up like Hopalong Cassidy. And the entire third act of the movie is essentially one long homage to, of all movies, the Marilyn Monroe, Laurence Olivier film, The Prince and the Showgirl. So you'll never find another slasher film in history that does a 30-minute tribute to The Prince and the Showgirl. But that's right here in Fade to Black, and it's one of my all-time favorite slashers. Vernon Zimmerman wrote and directed it. Obviously, it was a love letter to him, but he is not interviewed anywhere on this Blu-ray. He does not do a commentary, nothing. From what I understand, they could not find him, that he just basically disappeared. After he wrote Teen Witch, which was supposedly the third film in the Teen Wolf trilogy that was never to be. After he wrote that, he completely disappeared, went off the map, went off the grid, that kind of thing. He just completely disappeared. So now I will know him not just for Fade to Black, but also for the Unholy Rollers, edited by Martin Scorsese. So Kathleen Freeman makes an appearance as Claudia's mother. She was a Jerry Lewis regular, always playing sarcastic side characters. She has one good line in here about the scratches on Claudia's new car. And on top of all that, I mentioned before Inner Space, because it had Kevin McCarthy in it. Well, Kathleen Freeman is also in Inner Space as a grocery store customer who, in a dream sequence that Martin Short has, actually brandishes a gun from her purse and shoots him. And she's also in Gremlins 2, The New Batch. Became a Joe Dante regular after that. And here we have Claudia Jennings naked again. But here again, this is part of the highlight of this movie. She is this whole movie's raison d'etre, you know, or however you want to pronounce it. Claudia Jennings is everything in this movie, as you can see here. Whenever I want a pair of big, strong arms to help me, I'll go find me a man. She's obviously loving the dialogue. She obviously is loving spouting this dialogue. Oh. Oh, it took a while, but she finally got covered up. So yeah, I guess in the pantheon of roller derby movies, this is probably one of the worst ones. But you know, here again, I still can get some fun out of this movie. It just, I mean, even at 88 minutes, though, this feels like it's a stretch. Yeah. So we're at the 35-minute mark right here. Let's see. And I think we've already talked about everything we want to talk about. See, that's the thing. I was on the fence on whether I should include Unholy Rollers because there's not much more to say about it. I mean, Claudia Jennings, here again, is the whole reason to watch this movie. She is essentially the entire reason this movie has a fan base, or she has a fan base, because of this and the other movies that she's made. If you're going to watch a roller derby movie, go check out Kansas City Bomber. Go check out Whip It. But if you want to see Claudia Jennings, then check out Unholy Rollers too. And yes, I mean that with all due sincerity. I don't think this is a terrible movie. I don't know if I would give it 2.5 stars like Roger Ebert did, because I certainly don't have that Chicago bias, and then I don't have that. Here again, Claudia Jennings is this movie, and it's the whole movie hinges upon her as a performer. Oh yeah, I'm surprised that they don't get stopped by the cops for the kind of shit that she does right here, where she finds a gun and she just starts shooting like lights around town. Luckily, there are no cops around to witness all this. The Big Donut Drive-In. Oh wow. Yeah, how would you guys like to go to the Big Donut Drive-In? Yeah, for those of you who are wondering, I'm enjoying some French Market sparkling pink lemonade. I love my Trader Joe's lemonade, so decided to do that for this commentary tonight. All right, trying to think of something else to talk about. Give me a minute here, because I'm kind of burned out now at this point. I'm seriously kind of burned out. Let's see. Okay, Vinny the Trainer, that we saw earlier. American actor of Puerto Rican descent. He was in Mean Streets and Taxi Driver, Last Temptation of Christ, and King of New York. So yeah, he got to work with Martin Scorsese a lot after this movie. Made his television debut in Smile, Jenny, You're Dead, often playing the part of the New York heavy or mobster on film. Let's see. Yeah, forgive me. I'm so sorry about going silent. I knew that this was going to be a challenge to sit through and actually comment on every minute of the movie. But I don't know what else to say about Unholy Rollers, to be honest. I think all the crucial information is out of the way, and we're not even halfway through the movie yet. Let me see if I can find. Hold on a minute. Hmm. Ugh. Forgive me. I'm going to take a bathroom break. I will be back. Okay. I managed to find something that was recently written about Claudia Jennings. This was actually from cultsirens.com, written on June 21st, 2022. So, yeah, fairly recent. I found this and I thought this would be perfect to share. See, she was born Mary Eileen Chesterton, nicknamed Mimi, in St. Paul, Minnesota on February 20th, 1949. Her family moved to a Chicago suburb, Evanston, as the father found a job at Motorola. Mimi is the eldest of three sisters, and at the age of 10, found herself enrolled at Marquette University to study dramatic arts. The youngster was fascinated by acting and was soon doing so in local plays. Of course, she would be active in college theater and could be seen in August of 1967 in a short film shot by a fellow student as a school project. An excellent student, Mimi still disappointed her parents with the announcement that she was dropping her academic life to become a full part actress and model, as they were still thinking that she would go to some prestigious university. She found herself an apartment and began the typical hard life of any aspiring comedian. So a receptionist job was found at the offices of Playboy magazine to make ends meet. Not surprisingly, she would eventually be asked to participate in a photo shoot with Hugh Hefner, the ultimate bunny man himself, becoming her mentor. In the November 1969 issue, Claudia Jennings is the featured playmate, none other than our Mimi, now renamed for the sake of her young sisters. The green-eyed redhead would become one of the most popular playmates of the 1970s. Interestingly, even with a small chest. Still in 1969, Claudia made her feature film debut in Judd, an independent production having the Vietnam War as its theme. She then moved to Los Angeles and began a relationship with musician Bobby Hart. Ah, okay. So she had a thing with the musician in this movie. Okay. Some minor roles on television would follow, and even an off-Broadway show in New York. Claudia then decided to find herself a reputed agent to represent her, as she was already tired of being offered undeserving work based only by her looks and Playboy reputation. Soon after, Claudia could be seen in Willie and Scratch and Love Machine, both 1971. 1972 remains a strong year as Claudia starred in Unholy Rollers, a B movie based on the roller derby craze. already visited in the Raquel Welch Project Kansas City Bomber. It was her first biggest role to date and still one of her best, with Martin Scorsese as an editor. Of course, everywhere you visit talking about Unholy Rollers, they're going to say, oh, the editor, 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 editor. Yeah, so just bear that in mind. Claudia followed with Group Marriage, 40 Carats, and The Single Girls. Then would come the obscure thriller Sisters of Death. Meanwhile, Claudia was now living with Hart and his son, with lots of orphaned animals and continuous house guests. She would begin her legendary drive-in work in such classics as Truck Stop Women and Gator Bait. Yeah. Now becoming a sexy action movie star, playing hard-to-handle characters. Ironically, she would even find the time to appear on a Brady Bunch episode in 1973. The next year, she guest starred on an episode of the TV series The FBI, alongside Harvey Keitel. Of course, she remained faithful to Playboy, spoiling us with many more pictorials over the years. Interesting to note that all this bad girl roles were coming from a well-educated and cultured young woman. In 1975, Claudia was one of 2,000 hopefuls waiting in line to be the next Wonder Woman for an eventual television series. Of course, Linda Carter became a legend in her own way in being the chosen one. Claudia was then seen alongside David Bowie for the sci-fi classic The Man Who Fell to Earth, the two beginning a hallucinogenic relationship as Claudia had just broken up with Bobby Hart. Oh, that's interesting. So Claudia was dating Bobby Hart, the musician in Unholy Rollers, up until Man Who Fell to Earth in 76, where she started a hallucinogenic relationship with David Bowie. Wow. Legendary producer Roger Corman hired her for the cult film The Great Texas Dynamite Chase. Unluckily, she would hurt herself during a stunt, stopping the entire production for 2 weeks. She lost 10 pounds, began taking drugs to finish shooting. Some rumors claim that she was difficult to work with. Claudia began a new relationship, this time with the director of her current project, Moonshine County Express, Gary Graver. During their time together, her attitude turned for the worse. She still lost weight and began hanging around with dubious individuals to enjoy the California nightlife. Cast in Death Sport with David Carradine. This turned out to be another difficult shoot where she apparently physically fought it all out with the director. Cocaine was a big problem. In 1978, Claudia came to Canada to star in David Cronenberg's least known movie, Fast Company, with the immortal William Smith. This was to be her final movie project, as she was now floating from short-lived liaison to short-lived liaison. Claudia remained certain that she would be chosen to replace Kate Jackson in Charlie's Angels, but Shelley Hack was finally elected. Disillusioned by her career, men in Hollywood, she decided to put her life on the right tracks. But on October 3rd, 1979, as she was driving her Volkswagen on Topanga Canyon Boulevard, she was hit by a van. Claudia Jennings would die in the hands of the medics trying to get her out of the wreckage. Memory of this tragedy still gets to me, as she's still very present in the minds of her many fans, old and new alike, more than 25 years after she passed on. Yep, there you go. So that's what I'm saying, is that she still has a lot of followers, even well into the 21st century when, go look at those pictures she did for Playboy. I mean, they are stunning. They are absolutely stunning. So we're now at the 47-minute and 30-second mark. 47 minutes and 30 seconds. And we got approximately 42 minutes left to go. Yeah. What is he drinking? So yeah, I mean that's basically it about Claudia Jennings. I mean, there's really not much else to say. I wish there was, but there isn't. Let me look something else here. I should have just done Kansas City Bomber probably tonight. Hmm. Interesting. And see, that's the problem. I don't recognize anybody else in the cast. We've already talked about Vernon Zimmerman. We've already talked about, well, wait a minute, Martin Elfand. I mean, who directed also Officer and Gentleman 10 years after this. He actually became a very in-demand producer. Except he didn't produce Unholy Rollers. He did Kansas City Bombers. So now I'm confusing the two. It's, uh, yeah. Oh, and I do like the fact that her name is Karen Walker, and then by the end that she's going to go all Karen on everybody. It's pretty amazing. It is pretty amazing what Claudia Jennings eventually does with this role. And as you can see, she got a tattoo, which she will show off that tattoo many more times throughout the rest of the movie. Yeah. Now, I guess this is supposed to be a LA based Avenger roller derby team. Hmm. Look at that! Look at that guy in the back. He has a box that says "Have a maid." Like, look at that! What the hell is that? Oh yeah, these commercials right here. These these are actually funny. And when we get through the rough night of the track, you could bet we ache all over. I do like this stuff. I do like this stuff. Just jiggle the amazing rocket chair in a soothing, satisfying 5 minutes. Oh, yeah, really. I head straight for the rocket chair. uh, Reminds me of Bob Barker and his, the beauties that he used to have on The Price is Right, and all of them sued him for sexual harassment years later. Because they like to show off the models as much as they like to show off the the gift prizes and everything. And yeah, Bob Barker tried to sleep with every one of them. Needless to say. I like the tattoo. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, okay, if you saw this at a drive-in in 1972, you probably got your money's worth out of it. I mean, look, I mean, you pay to see some boobs, you pay to see some roller derby action and some sleazy comedy. I mean, you'll get what you want. You'll get what you want for, and you pay for with this because it is a drive-in relic. At this point, this movie is without a doubt just a drive-in relic. At this point, amusing in its own way, but very forgettable, especially when you try to compare it to Kansas City Bomber. This would fail miserably. Like I said, the one thing this movie has is Claudia Jennings. She has her limitations, but she's certainly a knockout, especially in this movie. But the unfortunate thing is some of the nude scenes that she has are a little bit queasy, a little bit cringy, a little uncomfortable today. But believe me, as a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old, I would have been salivating all over this movie and probably would not have any clue whatsoever that she had passed away years later or had died in a car accident when she was only 29, rather. And of course, the car salesman automatically assumes they don't have any kind of credit because they're young and everything. Look at her! Look at those glasses. Like, would any woman wear those glasses today? Would anyone wear those glasses today? They just, the hexagonal violet. I don't. I've never seen anybody wear glasses like that. More people wear the type of glasses he's wearing. Oh, no, you don't have to run a credit check. I'm a star. Yeah. Oh, you're a roller derby queen. Okay, yeah. The boom boom girl. the boom boom girl. Yeah, so, yeah. Just because she's the boom boom girl, that automatically gives her all the credit in the world. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the one marginally interesting thing about this movie is that we get to see what a lot of locations were like at the time. It doesn't really matter where this was shot. It was probably California, but admittedly, it is interesting to see what, how, what the car dealerships look like and everything. I mean, that's about as minimal historical value as this movie has. But unless you're a Claudia Jennings fan or a Martin Scorsese masochist, unless you're one of those two, there, it's really hard to recommend this to anybody. You'd either have to know who Claudia Jennings is and be a fan of hers, or you feel compelled to watch everything that Martin Scorsese has ever done, even when it's like his first editing gig, like with this movie. Yes, that is true. Scorsese was the apprentice editor to the Thelma Shoemaker on Woodstock from 1970, with Shoemaker getting an Oscar nomination. Yeah, I own Woodstock. I love that documentary, and yeah, he was exactly an apprentice editor on that with Thelma Shoemaker. Yeah, absolutely. Hmm. And let's be clear, when it comes to Martin Scorsese, I'd rather watch Boxcar Bertha again than than the Unholy Rollers. I mean, now I do like the fact that she likes to show off that tattoo pretty much in every scene for the rest of the movie. She is very proud of that tattoo. Very proud of it. God, all these scenes with the guns. I mean, you almost think that she's going to start slaughtering people later. Yeah, she's loving her guns in this movie. Yeah, she has a fixation on shooting lights for some reason. She has some kind of addiction to that. She doesn't like lights for some reason. She a mogwai or something? Ugh. I don't even want to see you breathing hard. Oh. And back on the roller derby rink. uh, yes, I remember back. I even remember the days when they used to wear those striped gym socks. It seemed like that was like essentially the sock that every athlete wore, was that it had to have like colored stripes on it. I've always been happy with just plain white socks myself, but whatever floats your boat. And that's the woman in the beginning that screamed, "Get him, fucker!" Right here at Stern Stadium. Now, which one is more violent, this or Kansas City Bomber? Which movie do you think showcases the violence of the sport more? Probably Kansas City Bomber, because this movie is more concerned about boobs, but then again at the end, when her character just starts going batshit crazy and just starts hitting everybody, even into the parking lot. I don't know. It's a good question. Good question. But at any rate, so the Karen Walker fan club, like, okay, okay, why would you make a sign that said the Karen Walker fan club when you could be like, go Karen, or, Karen is our queen, whatever, something more clever like that. No, just, oh, no, no, no. We have, there's a fan club. It exists now. Oh yeah, and constantly throughout this movie are the commentators, like, Jack, like, Jack, like every 10 minutes in this movie, I hear, Jack, and he just goes on and on about the action on screen. This one is strongest when she's auditioning for the team, but the games get kind of messy. Yeah. You know what? I would love to see like maybe something on ESPN from like a roller derby expert, like analyzing these films in detail, just because there's so few of them. I would love to see that, actually. Yeah, do this Kansas City Bomber and Whip It. I don't want to count Roller Boogie or Skate Town USA, because technically those aren't about the competition. Uh, well, no, actually, Roller Boogie was. Oh yeah, he was what was considered like a graceful skater or something like that, like a artiste skater. I don't know. But if you're going to make a movie about any sport, including roller derby, then it has to be about some kind of competition, I guess. I'm sure we'll have another roller derby movie eventually. I mean, here again, I don't think that Drew Barrymore is going to make a sequel to Whip It, but I'd like to see another filmmaker tackle this sport, later on, give it another fresh perspective. Oh yeah, here she's going to get roughed up a little bit. Damn. Look, I'm just going to say it. Claudia looks damn good in this movie. She looks damn good. And I'm 10 times the woman that she is. Oh yeah, I mean, I do believe that. I do absolutely believe that. Oh, here we go. Now we're going to get into some scenes of abuse here, but she's gonna own it. She's gonna stand up for herself and everything. Not let this guy rough her up the way he's doing. Like you ain't gonna get away with this shit. No way, man. No way. Oh, that was brutal. God, that was a literal punch across the jaw. That was like a sucker punch right there. Like, and she still lets it roll off. And then what's she gonna do? But hit him when he least expect it. Now, I do like this line ending the scene. God damn! You won't be happy until you have your own set of balls. Oh, honey, I got balls. Yours. Yeah, man. Mm. So, yeah, so he's skating the star of the LA Avengers. And I'm skating today for the amazing Zap Pen. Yeah. Yeah, this is something that Kansas City Bomber didn't touch upon, was like the advertising and these kind of television advertisements and everything. That's one thing that admittedly Kansas City Bomber didn't tap into. I mean, it's clear that a lot of these stars, like Olympic athletes, you know, they had sponsors. And, you know, they expected to, you know, do a little advertising there. She obviously doesn't give a shit about the advertising right there. Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, good. My camera's okay. Sorry about that. Ugh. Ugh. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, seriously, 25 minutes to go, and I just feel like I've run out of everything to say. I mean, I've exhausted everything at this point. Ugh. And that's not the movie's fault. I mean, it admittedly is not the movie's fault. I mean, you know, I probably should have passed on this, but you know, why not? It's 50 years old. You know, 1972's The Unholy Rollers. Yeah. Uh, Come and see us. Oh, we will. Yeah, we most definitely will. Uh, Excuse me. I think Roller Boogie would be a big hit here. You know, I could actually talk about Roller Boogie for 90 minutes. I probably could. But, you know, it's not nearly as fun as something like this, I don't think. This film I can watch again. I actually find Unholy Rollers tolerable. The only thing about Roller Boogie I liked was the fact that Bray and Blair actually made a cute couple. I actually liked their pairing. You know, it's just the movie was just a waste of time. I do think it's slightly better than Skate Town USA, though. What was the other big roller skating movie at that time? I know there's one I'm missing. There's got to be one I'm missing somewhere along the way. Now, I got to credit Vernon Zimmerman for actually shooting with the players. I mean, he actually does a fairly good job of capturing the action on the actual ring itself. I got to give him that credit. Xanadu, yes, Xanadu. And if you ask me, Xanadu is still, you know, maybe not as good as Kansas City Bomber, but, you know, I like Xanadu. I have a soft spot for Xanadu. It's, you know, I mean, for Gene Kelly's final film, I don't think it's an embarrassment. I actually do like a lot of the music in Xanadu. Yeah. So just a friendly reminder, tomorrow night, to all those who are listening, tomorrow night at 9 p.m., I will be doing a commentary for 5 Days, One Summer, the very last film directed by Fred Zinnemann, which came out in 1982, courtesy of the Ladd Company, starring Sean Connery. Next week, we will be doing Blade Runner, the final cut. I put that off for so long. I got to get Blade Runner done because here again, we're doing all the Ladd Company films. And next week, we shall be doing John Huston's Fat City, as you can see right there. This movie is another Ladd movie, which we're going to do in the month of September when I do all foreign language films. This is Bernardo Bertolucci's Tragedy of a Ridiculous Man, not available on DVD. This is actually a bootleg, courtesy of somebody that hooked me up very recently. So now I'll be able to do every single commentary for every single Ladd Company release because of this bootleg right here. And later on this month, we'll be doing Junior Bonner, directed by Sam Peckinpah and starring Steve McQueen. The Right Stuff, directed by Philip Kaufman. Mike's Murder, Star 80, directed by Bob Fosse. The Brady Bunch movies, The Brady Bunch movie, and A Very Brady sequel. Superfly, Shaft's big score for 50th anniversaries. Twice Upon a Time, G.I. Jane, Lovesick, and finally the first two Police Academy movies. So those are all commentaries that I have listed to probably be done this month. If not, we will put them off until later in the year. But as you can see, there's a number of Lad Company movies there, and then there's like 50th anniversary movies like Superfly and Shaft's Big Score. That's going to be a double feature, by the way, for a future Saturday night. But just to give you a little preview of what to expect for the rest of the month of August. September, we're going to be doing all international films from 1972, such as The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, and also The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant. The Tall Blonde Man with One Black Shoe, movies like that. And then in October, we are going to be doing all of the horror movies of 1972, and we're going to cap it all off on Halloween night with a 100th anniversary commentary for Haxan, Witchcraft Through the Ages, the 1922 Benjamin Christensen movie. So that will be Halloween night. I look forward to all of you joining me at that time. That is a pretty nice trophy right there. Just our way of telling you how much we appreciate. Yeah. I get a trophy every time I send somebody to the hospital. Is that the way it works now? That trophy is actually pretty badass. I would be proud of a trophy like that. That is a pretty badass trophy. But then again, you put somebody in the hospital to get that. Oh, man. Oh, come on. All right, we're 1 hour and 10 minutes in. Got 19 minutes left to go. Oh, believe me, I'm gonna go straight to bed after I finish this commentary. I'm going straight to bed. I don't want to quit now. I don't want to give up right now. I want to sit through this as I promised myself to. I do apologize. I know I should have been more prepared in terms of what I was going to talk about. But like I said, I mean, trying to talk about Unholy Rollers for 88 minutes, even that is a challenge. Even that is a damn challenge. That's what I'm saying. If I had like a roller derby expert with me, I think it would be a lot more illuminating and a lot more detailed. But unfortunately. But I'm still glad I did this. Like I said, for a roller derby double feature, this was actually pretty cool. This was actually a pretty cool thing to do. I mean, I got to enjoy Raquel and Claudia. Two women who were considered genuine sex symbols of the 1970s, and two of their best films. Why not? Oh yeah, here's where she retaliates by crashing the car. Yeah. Oh! How dare you scratch her car like that? Oh, that's messed up. That is so messed up right there. Look at that. Karen's little monster. Well, yeah, and it's about to let itself known it is a monster. Yeah, there we go. That's a pretty nice car she's driving, by the way. Pretty nice. Just recently I saw this commercial from the 70s, which is fairly famous for its time, but unless you actually know they exist, Ricardo Montalban did a series of commercials for Cordoba Chrysler, where he referred to the seats as having, fine Corinthian leather. It's like, why can't we see commercials like that nowadays? Like just maybe the slightest twinge of parody almost, without sliding entirely there. Like, does anybody actually believe those were actually Corinthian leather seats for Cordoba? I don't know. Maybe somebody will challenge me on that. Because I've actually read comments saying that was the best car they ever drove. This is pretty badass, though. Karen going on a road rage. Yeah. That's essentially what this shit is. She's Karening all over the damn place. And she ain't walking while she's doing it either. Go to Vegas before your numbers go up. Oh, man. She's just crashing through everything tonight. Oh, no. Oh, she's road raging, man. She is road raging up the yin yang here. Deep in the heart of Texas and round Frisco Bay. And here is Kathleen Freeman as the mother, as she's billed in the movie. She is simply billed in the movie as the mother. Yes, indeed. As John pointed out earlier, she was a Jerry Lewis regular, always playing sarcastic side characters. And she has one good line here about the scratches on Claudia's new car. Oh, really? Kathleen Freeman almost got the role of Alice on the Brady Bunch, but when Ann B. Davis became available, Kathleen was out. Oh. Oh, well. That's funny because Claudia Jennings was actually on an episode of Brady Bunch. So, oh, who knows? They could have been working together. Again. Mm. Mm. Now I have to get some more sparkling French Market lemonade. Oh, man. All right. Okay, we're at the 1 hour and 16 minute mark. 1 hour and 16 minutes, and we got approximately 13 minutes and 20 seconds left to go. And basically all that's left is the final 10-minute sequence where Karen is going to Karen again, but this time on the Derby scene, and then spilling out into the parking lot, essentially. That's essentially where this film goes and ends. Here again, there's not much of a plot, in this movie to speak of. It's just, all it was meant to be a, set in this world and, add a little exploitation, add a little flair, add a little comedy, be very, very un-PC in regards to the time and how they treated women characters. And yet at the same time trying to make Claudia Jennings' character as strong as possible, where, she doesn't take shit from any man in this movie. And here, I think this is like the fifth scene where she gets naked. I think this is like the fifth scene in the movie. And she actually does cover up here, she stands at this pose. It's pretty awesome. Like, what? What do you want to say to me now? Get it over with. Spit it out. You Miss America. What are you waiting for? I mean, that's what I'm saying. She was actually the B-movie queen at this time. She was, in essence, a star based on Playboy spreads. The next time you'd see me. Of course, after seeing her in Playboy, I mean, everybody wanted to use her naked in their movies at that point. But it is kind of sad because I did eventually, when I digged a little deeper on the biography of her, she was at a low point in her life when she died. so young. But she was actually going to try to, rebuild it until this happened. I'm the guy that signs your checks. You get up there and you do what I want you to do for a change. See, it touches upon some of the same things with Kansas City Bomber in terms of how these derby teams are run and everything, but it's otherwise different character, different motivations, different different expectations. It is different enough from Kansas City Bomber, but then again, does this make like an ideal double feature with it? Aside from the fact that it came out in 1972, the same year. Yeah, they do work together as a double feature in that essence. Kansas City Bomber is a lot more fun, and it's also got characters that actually touch you, while this is just merely sexploitation. And for what it is, it's kind of fun sexploitation, but it doesn't match the emotions that you feel in like a legitimate movie like Kansas City Bomber. But one thing that can't be denied is that this film, it did for the lead. It did more for the lead actresses more than anything else, in their careers. This is Kansas City Bomber is something Raquel Welch is very much proud of, and this has been cited by fans as one of Claudia Jennings' best movies. So, in her very, very short, very brief career, but the climax is rather abrupt. Did they run out of film? They could have used some of KCB's instant replays with different angles. Take that, Scorsese. Yeah, right. I got to admit that. Okay, do you want to go so far as to say this movie is edited better than Kansas City Bomber? I know that's a stretch. I know that's kind of a stretch, but at least we don't have those repeated quote unquote money shots. Man, there are some brawling at the end of this movie. There is some brawling. Oh shit. And down she goes. And here again, the commentator's like, Jack, Jack, Jack. You know what Karen is doing out there, Jack? She's kicking everybody's ass. Beverly is beautiful. Roberta, time for you to go down. Oh. Yeah, like I said, Roberta Collins as the rival Jennifer. Yeah. 7 minutes to go, and this movie, yeah, this is kind of an orgy of fisticuff violence. Somebody just pulled down somebody else's pants, decided to moon them. I don't know if they're just I know. It is really abrupt. Did they run out of film, or just what was the deal here? I don't know. But I guess the idea is that Karen is going to just start going crazy and beating up everybody. Sort of like what's his name does in Kansas City Bomber. Now I can see the apt comparisons to like wrestling with these moments. Oh God! Come on, get up, Karen. Show them who the queen of the derby ring is. Just show them. I'm just gonna hang out here for a while, snatch her helmet away, like, oh, and just bashes her with the helmet and then throws it on the ground. What was that? Did you see what I just saw? How can you fire a girl who can skate like that? Yeah, see, I mean, the hypocrisy. You expect all these roller derby players to do all these shenanigans for ratings or for attendance and whatever. Oh, but if you go too far, we're going to fire you. That you kind of encourage this stuff, you assholes. See, it's just total chaos now at this point. It really is. Well, I'm actually glad that she gets back at the doctor, sort of. No, Karen's out of control. Oh, yeah. The song that plays at the end here is pretty funny because that could be a Karen anthem now. It's not joking. There's a song that's actually dedicated to Karen's character at the end of the movie by, of course, Claudia Jennings' boyfriend at the time, who was also the musician for the songs. So it all makes sense. It all comes together, Oh, Marshall, who needs that kind of aggravation? See, here we are into the parking lot where she just starts going ape shit, like doing what a Karen does, is because just cause chaos and disruption and everything. A serious Jack, this is incredible. In my 14 years of commenting on these games, oh, shut up. God, commentators are the most annoying guys on the planet. They are so fucking annoying. The entire crowd is dissolved. This is tremendous. This is absolutely tremendous, ladies and gentlemen. I have never seen anything like it in all my years of professional sports commentating. Like a cookie for you, moron. A cookie for you. They always have to be so obvious. It's so obvious it's annoying. It is annoying. All right, you know what, John? Okay. I agree with the rating for Kansas City Bomber. I actually do. 3.5 stars out of 5 for me. Unholy Rollers, I'm willing to give it a 2. Look, it just, I've seen much, much worse than this. And here again, it's a showcase for Claudia Jennings more than anything else. I mean, I didn't hate Unholy Rollers. I just think that it's a kind of a, just a sleazy, forgettable drive-in relic. That it's an artifact. It doesn't really have any, here again, one more time. If you're a Claudia Jennings fan, if you're a fan of roller derby and you're interested in looking at all the roller derby films out there, there's not many of them. This is it. This is about, next to Kansas City Bomber. The Great W. Stern Exhibit Center. And here we have the merciful ending of Unholy Rollers, where she proudly showcases her tattoo to the world. Avengers forever, baby. And then we actually end with this song right here, which it has to be heard to be believed. Unholy Roller. What's some of it? But if you get to know her, maybe you'll find that lady that's hiding inside, like it's. Well, at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and close out the evening by saying thank you, everybody, for joining me tonight for Kansas City Bomber and Unholy Rollers. Casey Carr would mop the floor with Karen. That's the thing. I actually kind of now have a fantasy idea of like Claudia Jennings and Raquel Welch doing a roller derby movie back then in like 73 or something. That would have been amazing. And they would have been the rivals this time. But look, it's a ripoff. It is what it is. Kansas City Bomber is a hell of a lot better. But at any rate, so thank you everybody for joining me tonight. Looking forward to tomorrow night when I do 5 Days, One Summer, directed by Fred Zinnemann and starring Sean Connery. Thank you.